What's up, everybody? Just want to take a quick second and let people know that I am self-supported. I now put all of my episodes on Substack for paid subscribers. I put them up early, and then 24 hours later, I release them to the public on all my platforms. I also have Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, Zelle, a P.O. Box, and Locals, Patreon. And all of these, all of the links are in the show notes of every single episode I put out. So look forward to continuing to, provide great conversations. And thank you all for your continued support. We should have invited Ed Dowd onto this panel. Then we would have loaded the lineup. There wouldn't have been enough room and space for all the star power. I mean, just with you two alone.
I really enjoyed, by the way. I thought the Ed Dowd one went really well. Oh, yeah. I've been so dying to chat with Eddie Dowd face to face. We've had phone calls and stuff. But Ed's got a real dark side, too, that he doesn't show. He doesn't show publicly because everyone would pull their money out of his fund.
Well, I think.
Yeah,
go
ahead, Mike.
No, please.
No. I was so like, I had the same day, but I had been waiting to talk to him because I just knew we shared a lot because we were kind of in similar places during the last crisis. And so I thoroughly enjoyed talking to him, and I very much relate to that dark side that, I think you just naturally get once you work something like that, and you see kind of the shenanigans around it. It never goes away. But you don't often talk about it when you're in a professional setting, if that makes sense.
So the question, are we going to talk satanic cults again? So for me, the actual first wake-up call on the dark side, I think once you really dig into one of the stories, you realize that you really are in the Matrix. And I just finished Family of Secrets about the Bush family, and it's pretty clear that Russ Baker, the author, for him, it was a come to Jesus moment because he not only put together all the incredible network of connectivity and how George Senior, Poppy Bush was way darker. He wasn't just this sort of semi-bumbling, innocuous guy. He was not just head of the CIA. He was involved in a lot of dirty crap. And once you see one of those, you can't unsee it, and you can't. So my first wake-up call was I was dragged to a talk when I was a freshman in college, and that would have been 1973, and it was by Mark Lane. And Mark Lane was Oswald's lawyer for 2 days, right? And it turns out that he basically told the story of Oswald didn't do it. And he's one of these famous Johnny Cochran type lawyers, right? He was not a lightweight. And he said that he was hired by the Kennedys.
This episode is brought to you by McIlvaney Financial Group. Their advisors bring a depth of knowledge and experience that allow them to serve their clientele with care, ensuring their financial needs are met now and in the future. Personally, I'm not saying cash is worthless, but you can see what's happening. It's worth less every year. Gold is the opposite. Click on the promo link in the show notes or go to www.mcilvaney.com/coffeeandamike.
And I remember going, oh my golly, that just changed the plot. And ever since then, it's just been downhill from there. And I one day on Twitter tweeted, I'm a conspiracy theorist. If you're not, you were called an idiot. And if you are and you won't say anything, you're what's called a coward. And that tweet went so viral, it's now made it into at least 2 books. And,
wow.
Yeah, right. And my bio says I'm a conspiracy theorist. And if you're not a conspiracy theorist, you really are an idiot at this point. And if you won't admit it, you're missing the point. Men and women of wealth and power conspire. They just do. And that's where I want to go. It's been bothering me. It's been bothering me.
It's interesting because I often try to think, because Mike asks me these questions or we talk about it, like when did I first start really, questioning everything? And I think that the way that I grew up meant that I questioned everything, because sort of starting out in life, my grandfather had this massive farm, 3,000 acres, very well respected in this very small town. I later found out a lot of things that were going on behind the scenes. But once he went bankrupt, we became trailer trash like overnight. And when you're on the other side of the tracks,
That's my goal, by the way.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was crazy. So like he built this massive house. My uncle built one right down the road. They had this massive, what would be considered a 70s style plantation, and it was on an old plantation in Mississippi. And then he ended his life on 1 acre, 1 acre left on the back of that farm in a trailer. And he was a habitual gambler, but he also fell for what the government was selling back then, which was plant, because that's when when Russia was experiencing like food shortages or whatever. And then, they famously didn't bail out the farmers. And so they lost the farm. But I always had to look. So very early in life, I was outside of everybody else, kind of looking in from a life that I used to kind of be in. And I think that sort of changed the way I thought from a very young age. But I think when I really first started questioning like government, things like that, is we would have kids come home, people that were like 2 grade levels above me, who had been in the army for the first Iraq war. And they were like, we're not over there for what you think. Not at all. No way, no how. And so, that's kind of when I think I always had the suspicion that, because you could see the people, just take it back small town. I could see the people that would act one way in my church, right? But I knew what they were really doing. And so I've always been living with sort of that, there's this performed reality and then there's reality. And then I think that's informed, my thinking from very young.
Speaking of, did you guys watch the Kevin O'Leary Tucker interview at all?
I've got it in my queue.
I wrote this week, Michael. I wrote yesterday. So I'm doing some writing for Unicus Research, and I wrote about, this data center debacle and how much worse it actually is than everybody thinks. But no, I definitely want to watch that because this is getting insanity. I mean, what we want a data center the size of DC. I mean, that's insane. So yeah, but I haven't seen it. Did you watch it?
I saw a clip of it. I started it this morning. I mean, I'm bouncing back between that and Professor Zhang. He's got a whole thing on China, which we'll go to China here later.
About it. I'm not sure what to make of Zhang, by the
way. So, but with Kevin O'Leary, he was saying, Tucker was asking him the little clip I saw where he was saying, we don't know the jobs it's going to create. It's kind of like the evolution of other things where you thought it was the end of industry, the end of productivity, but it's going to embark on a whole new world that we don't even know yet. And Tucker's like, okay, can you give me some, I'm paraphrasing,
give me some numbers.
Give me some jobs, something. And he's like, well, I don't know yet, but it will, robotics, manufacturing robotics, war will be AI driven, less people will be killed by missiles.
A typical data center employs 10 people. So the majority of the jobs for the data centers is the construction and building it out. But once it's done, it's 10 people. Yeah, robotics, then you can teach robots to fix one another. Now, we have a long way to get there because we don't have enough people in this country that understand how to make software speak to hardware. Like, it is a lost art. I don't care what anybody says. I grew up in IT. So we've got a long way to get there, but it's just absolutely ridiculous to say that these data centers are going to bring gainful employment to these areas. Like that's ridiculous.
And there's also, I think, like they're trying to build one in Ithaca, a small one. And I know a number of the guys who are sort of in town politics. So I said, do not let them get you to use town money to build infrastructure for them.
Right.
And second of all, do not spend a penny of the money until it's in the bank, because it's going to go away. And make sure that whatever provisions you have, make sure you don't get left with a mess. And I don't think they're smart enough to do that. I think they're getting duped. Here's one for you, Melody. How the hell do you buy a credit instrument, let's say a corporate bond, and protect yourself against them slipping a more senior debt on top of you, even if yours says senior? It bothers the hell out of me that you think you're owed something by a company and find out that they then lent they borrowed money from someone who says, oh, by the way, we're going to get paid ahead of you.
We're
And I go, I was here first.
Right.
But they can write any contract that they can break, and it bothers the crap out of me.
Can you give me an example? Can you guys give me an example?
Any corporate debt that you own, if you own a corporate debt instrument, and they get in trouble, they will go borrow from someone, and they will make that debt the senior debt. So when they go bankrupt, they get paid first.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get paid. And I'm trying to figure out why it's not a first come, first serve. And I read a lot about it, and I saw the mechanics by which they do it, but it's so fraudulent sounding.
It is. Yeah, and I think, I think that what people forget is we broke contract law in the last crisis. Like, this was very evident with, like, loan modification should have never actually occurred.
Modified, right.
It was against the contract. And this was something my ex-CEO, who was himself a little suspect in many ways, but he was former Bayer, and but this is something he screamed to the regulators, like, you are breaking contracts. And I think I think that he might have been wrong about a lot of things, but he was right about that. And I think we're living with those consequences now. Like, it's like anything goes. Anything goes. And if you get caught, it's a little fine, and you can just kind of hire a publicist, and you'll be back up and running in a couple of years. You'll be just fine.
And AIG, for example, was stolen, and people don't know that. So Hank Greenberg sued the government for stealing AIG. What I don't remember is the outcome of that lawsuit. But people go, what are you talking about? Your company went down the toilet and they bailed out the system. It's like, no, the company did not go down the toilet. And I got this from David Stockman, who said that if you actually look at AIG, the insurance company, it was totally ring-fenced from their derivatives group, which is about 15 people. And the derivatives group should have just gone insolvent, but they stole AIG, the company, and they never should have been able to touch it.
I think there's still a lot about that time we don't know. I mean, I honestly, I was what's that one? Too Big to Fail. One of those movies, with the big five.
Big Short.
No, not even the Big Short. It's the other one. It's Too Big to Fail, because we were the fifth bank in the room, but we're like the redheaded stepchild. So we were in all these meetings. Like, we were talking to we were talking to the Fed every single day. We were talking to, all these big banksters and things like that. And we were in the thick of it. And so, but
Trivia point, you know where bankster came from?
Where?
Bankster, the term, was a right-wing radio show.
That's funny.
From the Great Depression.
Oh, really? From the Great Depression.
Just put that in your Snapple cap storage file, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
No. I just think that it is a book I want to write, because I think we're missing still probably half the story, honestly. And so that's just something. It's something I want to do at some point. Is right, because I think we still fundamentally misunderstand that crisis, and we don't know the half of it. We don't know exactly.
So one of the books, I think it was Bethany McLean's, maybe, wrote about the legality of everything going on behind the scenes. And the bottom line is there were guys who were trying to get the bad guys convicted. And what would happen is they would spend enormous amounts of time building a case, because $1,000 an hour lawyer can beat you in court pretty fast. So you really got to build a case. And what would happen is they'd get their conviction, and then it would go to an appeals court, and the appeals court would spend 3 hours looking at it and then throw it out. And they said, we're just not winning this. So what do? They just set up big fines. Well, that gets paid by the shareholder. They reduce the fine after the fact, so that you don't see that it went from $2 billion to $250 million, and then that becomes tax deductible, and they end up paying squat.
Right. It's all a charade, and so
here's what I want. I want a rule that says, and it'll never happen because you never tell the billionaires how to run their lives. I want a rule that says define C-suiters. Someone smart can figure out what's a C-suiter, right? Define the top dogs and say, if we have to bail out your bank, you are going to lose the last 5 years of your compensation. That'd be great. Wouldn't that be great? Go ahead, bail them out.
The CFPB had more powers than any other entity. Like they told us,
What's CFPB?
the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. It's that thing that came out of Dodd-Frank that was supposed to be an additional regulator on top of the OCC, all this stuff. And they could do so. They would tell all us little vice presidents and things like this, just how much jeopardy we were in, because they could do things like ban you from the industry forever. If they called you in for questioning, you could have a lawyer present, but the lawyer would not be able to speak. There was it was like full, like you had no rights in this, and they could ban you. Well, why? Why did that never happen to somebody like Jamie Dimon? Or are these guys that were in the middle of all this? Right, or Corzine?
Corzine could have been. All they had to do is give immunity to the second in command, and that boy would be in prison. Right?
Exactly.
A guy named Ruchir Sharma wrote a very good book. Ruchir Sharma, I can't remember the title of the book, but it's something like What Happened to Capitalism or something like that.
Okay.
And his message is that they have flooded the system with ungodly amounts of capital, which, precious capital is a moat for a good business person, because if the good guys can get the capital and the bad guys can't, unfortunately that becomes the big guys get it and the small guys can't, and that's not right. But if a good businessman can get the capital and a fly-by-nighter can't, then it's a moat for the good businessman. And what he said, they flooded the system with ungodly amounts of capital, and then basically tried to use regulation to control it. And that's where modern day capitalism has gone wrong. There is no limit to the amount of capital available to the system now. And there should be. There should be. Now, the other problem is we're talking data centers. One of the problems with the data centers is that they're sucking huge wads of capital. Now, you're a banker, and actually we talked about this yesterday. You're a banker, you can give $10 billion to Apple or whatever to build out their AI crap, or you can give $10 million to 1,000 businessmen. Who are you going to give the money to?
Right. Yeah.
Because one's just one contract, one's 1,000 contracts.
Right. It's somewhat depressing, but I totally agree with you. I know it's very, yeah, you're right. It's very depressing. And I think what's so crazy right now.
That's my box cutter I keep next to my desk in case I need to take out a wrist or two.
What's
go ahead.
Crazy? Oh, go ahead. No, what I was going to say, Dave, is I was recently at a dinner where a very famous Wall Street analyst was telling me how private credit was not systemic. And they're, this is, and Ed Dow mentioned this just a little bit too. Like, I think they're defining.
I think it is.
I do too. But they're defining systemic as it wouldn't reach the banks. Well, that's just absolutely untrue. It is the banks are absolutely involved. And the thing that everybody forgets, and what these guys talked about, and of course they're the smartest guys in the rooms. These are people you would know their names. And they were saying things, well, there's some good software out there. There's just like a little bit of bad software. And, when I'm in these settings, I often just listen because I feel like I can learn more versus arguing, right? But in reality, it's not just the bad software. It's the commercial real estate, like multifamily, office. It's also the data centers. Like Blackstone is now, Steve Schwarzman just claimed he is the largest investor in data centers. And guess who else? Blue Owl. And so Blue Owl's got crappy software issues. And believe me, they lend to everybody with some kind of crazy idea. I met with them like many years ago. And then they're all over commercial real estate. They're all over credit with Klarna. And I mean, they are in the worst stuff. And so it's to me, the fact that this guy had to stand on the table and say private credit is not systemic. I mean, that's telling me everything I need to know.
So the question then becomes is where does private credit get its money?
Right.
And I don't think they're using S&H green stamps or Ethereum, right? I mean, it's just that you got to get it from somewhere. So the next crisis, we're going to find, oh, who knew that all that connectivity existed underneath the
Right.
surface? Oh, what a shock. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that these guys were using shell companies to borrow money from JP Morgan, who now has
Right.
to be bailed out because heaven
Right.
forbid Jamie loses stock options,
Right.
right? And when
Right.
they reprice stock options in 08, how about that little bit of a ripoff
Right.
trick?
Exactly. Yeah. What were you going to say, Mike? You had a question.
Well, no, you guys were, went back to data centers, and my question is with all this, because they're not showing any type of profit. So what are they justifying continuing to build these things for when they're not? Aren't they? Some of them are being built, and they're just sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah.
WEF.
You're right. I mean, that's what I think there's a lot of credence to that. Like, but yeah, Michael, there was an article that came out yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago now. Just this guy, and I don't know much about him, Ed Zitron, but he was going through. He's like, you know what? I can't find any of these data centers that are complete that they've been talking about this year. Now we've heard about the Amazon data centers that got completed that they can't spin up because they don't have the power. But he went through this massive list of all these data centers that had broken ground. And he's like, because Microsoft has claimed that they've added 2 gigawatts of production power to their portfolio, when in reality, he can't find that anywhere. And what they've probably done, and this was on a Trip podcast, is they've bought land that is already kind of power ready for potential development. And so they've added the power to the portfolio, but these things aren't up and running. There's no revenue coming in from these things. And so I think we're in the middle of one of the biggest Ponzi / shell games that we'll ever see in our lifetimes.
This is
Honestly.
the railroad build out. This is the railroad build out. There were railroads that were built out that never even had a single train use them
Right.
before they were torn up.
Right.
And so who is it? Jeff Gundlach, who's one of the guys who seems to understand, also pointed out something. I've quoted this so many times now that I'm talking to myself. He said that when the electricity companies at the turn of the century obviously were a big boom. He said they peaked share price wise in 1911. Think about how little had happened by 1911. So the guys who think they're going to get rich investing in the mega cap, AI companies, the share price could be so close to peaking right now, and if it's not, then knock me over with a feather.
Right. Exactly. And this is the last thing standing, right? Like there was an article in Business Insider a couple of days ago just talking about now all you hear from Blackstone and all these guys on their earnings calls is about AI and data centers because they don't want to talk about their real estate books that are just taking a bath on both single family residential and commercial. I mean, I'm digging in these securitizations. I'm finding all these losses that Blackstone's taking. And so this is why they're talking about AI and data centers. But it's going to be a magnificent implosion. But I do agree with you that I think that these things aren't about Chat GPT. And even the one in Utah that, Kevin O'Leary is trying to get spun up is, there's a Department of War, whatever. There's an adjacent base and they're involved somehow. So that this isn't about your Chat GPT so you can create legal documents. That's not what this is.
So the WEF, there was a WEF type clip with all the big players, CEOs and stuff talking about wiring up the world. Mm-hmm. And it's horrifying to listen to them. As much as they try to make it sound sanitary, you can just hear authoritarianism in everything they say. It just reeks of authoritarianism. And they talk about how digital ID and you'll have all of your information, all your healthcare information, and we'll know everything, and that'll be great. And I'm going, do you have any idea how bad that sounds? They don't.
I really want to do what Matt Smith has done, which is go back and read The Great Reset, because it's like so hard to force myself to reread it. But I think that because I think the blueprint is out there. It's just a matter of people paying attention to it. But I'm not down with all this. And it's just happening everywhere all at once. That is one thing that makes me a little suspicious, right? About, am I being spun up again on an issue? Because think about it, right? Like overnight, we're just getting these stories everywhere, like Fayetteville, Georgia, where they were stealing the water. And this is a QTS, which is Blackstone data center, but they're hosting Microsoft there. They were stealing 30 million gallons of water that they weren't even being charged. And so residents suddenly noticed, this is where my dad lives, believe it or not, Fayetteville, Georgia. All the residents just noticed that their pressure was low. And then come to find out, these people weren't even set up on a bill. They were just taking the water through two unauthorized hookups.
They're not even trying. They're not even trying to make it look like they're playing by the rules.
Exactly.
Or it's just so garish.
And Elon
it's like Charlie Kirk's assassination,
right?
And we're getting a bullet in the neck,
right? And it's like down in Stargate in South Haven, Mississippi, where I went to high school. Elon's got backup power running, which he's not supposed to be able to do. He doesn't have primary power, and these things are loud and disgusting. It's kind of nuts, but I also have to question how suddenly Kevin O'Leary is on Tucker. I have to say, okay. And I don't know if I've shared this with you guys, but I got called into, I know I shared it with you, Mike. I got called to a meeting in DC in September for a certain politician who wanted to create an AI bill. And the primary issue was data centers and that communities are revolting. And I think that the Republicans have figured out, or at least a branch of them, and they were slow to this, that this data center is it's a big issue that people care a lot about. And so I think we're watching it evolve into a, midterm top 5, if not number 1 issue besides.
Let me ask you this. I keep reading about data centers getting the electricity, whereas the consumer will not.
Right.
And forget about the price. It flat out is they will not have power while the data center is getting the power. Do you believe that will happen? Or what? Or as you said earlier, it has not been turned on because there isn't the power. Which is going to happen?
I mean, that's so I've been thinking a lot because I think we've learned a lot in the past couple of years about narratives, right? And I'm a big, Matt's article on narratives was just so
that was
amazing.
Great, actually. That was
so
great. That was really
it's
good.
like he just manifested everything that we were all thinking.
Got it.
He just nailed it. And I love that article.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been thinking a lot about that. And so every time these things start to happen, and this is what I'm watching now is narrative convergence, right? It may be two completely different groups of thought, but where they converge. And I think that's the new kind of compass I'm using to understand the world. And so I'm still a little unclear, but I got to tell you, Dave, after what we went through here with Helene in 24, they won't be building a data center around here. I mean, people are that angry.
But I saw a video of a town hall where the people were there in vast numbers screaming, and it still went through. But
guess what happens next? So they've got a referendum that they're basically. So this is Travis and Mitch, right? The property tax people. What Travis has been doing down in Texas, God love him, going into these small towns and essentially getting these city councils replaced that are voting in all this crazy crap.
Right.
And so that he's forcing elections. And that's what they're kind of trying to do. And that's what's happened in a lot of these city councils. They're just getting voted out. And so in Utah, they passed it in a closed room. I mean, what kind of cowards are those? I mean, that's crazy. 3 people, guys, 3 people. So they're getting a referendum to revote or do something there, but somebody's going to come in and I think that's going to be a big hard no, at least in its form. So that's where I'm trying to think right now. What's the meta narrative? And then and in many ways, it feels like we're being pushed into kind of the Democrats' hands, to basically so that they can usher in some of this control, but they're going to give us this layer of.
It's not going to matter. I'm going to play Mike's role here. It's not going to matter.
Oh no, I don't. Democrat, Republican. Yeah.
You speak of
agree.
narrative convergence. Let me give you a trivial, seemingly unrelated case. Rose McGowan was the person who really brought out the Me Too movement, right? And narrative convergence, all of a sudden I'm reading, I think it was Strange Scenes in the Canyon. She was in a cult.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wait a minute. The person's, they didn't talk about that, right? And then I read the book Family of Secrets about the Bushes, and there's a guy who looks like he shouldn't be a major player, but he knows the Bushes, the Kennedys, the Johnsons, and the Oswalds. And I'm going, holy moly! Again, it's one of those strange things where you go, it just my inclination at this moment is to believe that we have no control over this.
Yeah, I think they're trying to convince us we have a little bit,
but I don't think we have any.
But I don't think the scale is what they're putting out there right now. What I mean is, I don't think there's going to be a data center the size of Washington, D.C. in Box Elder Canyon. I just don't think that's going to happen. And it's like this.
Could that be known? Could that be known? They know that?
Yeah. I mean, I
well,
think
so remember when Amazon was looking for a headquarters, a new headquarters, and they had 2 sites. And one was in Queens, I think, and one was somewhere else. And then there was pushback. Now, pushback is not going to phase Amazon, right? Pushback, no. And they immediately succumb to the pushback and say, we're not going to Queens. And I'm going, they did that to say, do not fuck with us.
Yeah. So I don't think that the administration is playing 3D chess, for instance, but I do believe that, and I think this is what we've learned from books like Strange Things in the Canyon, Chaos, all these things that I remember reading in grad school decades ago, but somehow buried or forgot or whatever. I think that you now have to look at everything as some sort of form of a psyop or mind control. And you have to kind of look at what is the meta narrative. What are they trying to achieve? And are they trying to give us a bone, right? Like a bone of, we can't stand up against these data centers. The only reason we can't stand up against them is they've now realized they don't need them, right? I mean, that is part. So, because I got to tell you, Dave, I'm at the point where I worked with this technology. I tried to implement a lot of it, could not because corporations couldn't get it done. I just don't think we're at the place they think. I mean, that they're pretending that we are. And it would take a lot of work to get there. And so I think like this is kind of playing with our emotions. Like this is an issue that can be a top 5, like something everybody can get super angry and upset about, meanwhile, like other things are being accomplished. I don't know. That's just kind of, and I don't want these data centers. They make me very angry, but I'm now starting to think about the times in the past 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, where I got very angry about something, and think about the players that I was watching when that happened and thinking about their roles in media. And I got to tell you that I think that this data center might actually also be kind of a narrative they're playing with to give us a feeling that perhaps we have more control than we do, but also they realize like this just ain't going to fly until they can really figure out energy if they haven't already. Like there's just no way. When you read the actual amount of energy all this takes, we are nowhere near that amount of power, like nowhere near it.
Well, one thing we know is that the narrative that's going to go the way of the dodo bird is climate change.
Oh, right.
And that's you can already see guys like Bill Gates saying, well, we kind of overestimated that one, so stop worrying about it and things like that. As soon as I heard Bill Gates say that, I said, it is officially over. It is officially over. And a friend of mine just wrote a book that I think will be the definitive book on why climate change is a load of crap and really rigorously done. But I think he's too late. I think you don't need a book now.
Right.
And by the way, Mike, I mentioned getting him on your podcast. I'm going to talk to him and try to tell him that people don't want a presentation; they want to chat. I'm going to see that I'm trying to help this guy get on some podcasts to get a little buzz, because he did a great job on the book. I read drafts of it and stuff. And in any event,
let me interrupt for a second, because I want to come back to.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
I want to come back to the Kevin O'Leary Tucker. Why do you think that a conversation occurred, Melody?
Give us a thumbnail sketch of what they talked about, so I know why you're saying this.
He's the guy. Kevin O'Leary's trying to push that Utah. No, he's pushing that Utah data center. He's the one behind it.
Okay.
But so here's the thing that I have to remember. And Dave, you called this. And I remember when you said it, I was like, I felt the exact same way. Remember when Tucker had on the guy?
Nicola.
Well, the one, the guy that was in Israel, and he was talking about how they would kind of shoot the Palestinians, like, basically fish in a barrel, like as they were trying to cross to get food. And you said on a podcast with Mike, you said there was just something very inauthentic about him. And I was like, I felt that same thing, but I got to tell you, I was angry. I was so angry after watching that, the same way that I'm angry about data centers. And so I'm not saying that those things weren't happening. I don't know, but I also know my emotions are being played with. And so to me, Michael, the reason why we're seeing this is this is the entree into the political landscape. It's been down here with the states, counties, governors, but we're now on a different level. That's just my initial take.
So is this all a play to move us officially towards technocracy, do you think? Did you read Patrick Wood's book, for example? Patrick Wood, Technocracy? You got to read that one if you haven't.
I don't think I've read his. I will.
But for the listener, technocracy is an idea that came out in the 30s that basically said that the world would be run by technology, and that there would be regions and all sorts. And this has resurfaced in a very big way, which is consistent with Trump doing Venezuela and Greenland. That becomes a technate, and I think the Middle East becomes a technate. Right. The whole thing could really be to just digitally connect the whole world into this load of crap that none of us want.
Yeah, I think that is a possibility. I'm also toying with the idea. So I'm starting to see this like narrative layering, right? Like, and you can now you can come up with 10 sort of really good narratives, and you can peg these things like, oh, okay, that's that one. That, is it the banksters? Is it the technocracy? Is it XYZ? Is it the Israelis? Is it whatever? And so I think I am beginning to wonder about all of this, Dave, because I don't believe that what they're saying is possible is actually possible right now, and won't be for some time. And so I think, and this is something you and I have also talked about, and something Mike, you and I have talked about, is like, so I think that they're not as smart as we kind of give them credit for. A lot of this is kind of bumbling along with perhaps a particular idea in mind, but that a lot of this is just kayfabe, and I can't remember. I think it was, what's his name? John Waters, Michael, who I feel like he just clicked it for me about Elon. You know how I've always felt about him, never a fan. But he clicked it, and he's like, he's just the poster boy, if you need to get excited about something, like Mars. You need to get, like Mars, like just, run him out, you want to, and it's really more about distraction than it is actually reality. And I don't know if you caught Michael's episode with James Dalrymple.
Dalrymple is such a pistol. He's such a pistol.
Dave and him recorded for 2 hours, which I didn't get a chance to watch. It's behind a paywall on James's Substack, but
I think I've got the audio. I think I've got a link to the audio that's in front of the paywall.
Yeah. Yeah, I listened to it.
He's such a pistol. He took Mike as far over the skis as you could go.
I know.
It's really funny.
Mike was just laughing
the whole time. I think nuclear weapons are fake, and I'm going, no, come on, James.
It was hilarious.
I know.
But to me, I don't know about you, Dave, but to me, I welcome the ability to just kind of somebody to take me out of my own, sort of inner chamber ridiculousness. And he does that in a way that
great job at that.
I was just like, I was like, Michael, I was laughing the whole time because some of it is so ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous, and right before I was jumping on this podcast, I was reading an article somebody sent me. They said, do you believe any of these photographs from like the war damage, and you look at them, you're like, no, I don't believe that photograph. And so it's just like, could we, and again, I'm not saying we are, but I think it's an amazing thought experiment and it helps with perspective on some of this stuff. But could really so much of this really just all be, like you said previously, not necessarily the Matrix, but kind of like we're being fed all of these crazy stories just to keep us, distracted. Go ahead, Mike.
Can I share with you, Melody, when I were on the phone, we're talking about this, and I said this yesterday in my conversation. I can't even say this without laughing, so I apologize, people that in the comments they hate my laugh. But she pointed out. Thank you. That's all that matters to me. Melody, I'm sorry. Melody pointed out like all these reality stars that are now in this administration, and you look at the Department of Transportation. Sean Duffy, where did he come from? He was on MTV Road Rules. His wife, who's a Fox host, Rachel Campos Duffy, she was on MTV Real World. I know that because I used to watch her on The Real World. You got Pete Hegseth, who was on Fox. Now you got Spencer Pratt, the mayor.
Spencer Pratt, trying to be the mayor of LA, baby.
He was on The Hills, and what was his promotion video? He was a superhero. He was exactly. I mean, Mike.
Wearing his underpants on the outside.
Exactly. And Mike, people can give you, because, I listen to all your shows almost. And so I understand, it's repetitive, but I got to tell you, I think that sums up where we are and what they're, and it was kind of you go back to scenes from the Canyon, it was laid out for us, all these movies. And I've told you before, it's like, where did these movies come from? Like all these comic book movies. And suddenly we're all prepared. We're all prepared for, comic book superhero reality, which is what Spencer Pratt was the most obnoxious. So I was telling somebody else this, Michael, I may have told you, it's like, I rejoined reality, or not reality. I rejoined from the crisis, the social sphere around 2014. And so I felt like I had missed so much because all I did was work on trying to get out of crisis. And so I watched shows like The Hills, just trying to understand what all these people were talking about because it just seemed so ludicrous to me. And Spencer was the most obnoxious human being on the planet. And now he's a hero. It's crazy. It's just crazy. But anyway,
and their complete lack of qualifications for the jobs that they get put in. By the way, who the most qualified as he entered the presidency, president in history, was Herbert Hoover.
Yeah.
If you look at Herbert Hoover's background before he became president, the guy knew how to get the job done. He was really good at getting the job done. And what did he end up with? A complete shitstorm. Mm-hmm. There is a sense of futility, and one of the problems is, for example, is I enjoy writing about it, and I've gotten progressively of the mind that I have no idea what I'm talking about, and I've several times on podcasts said to guys who are weekly bloggers, I said I couldn't put out a blog a week because within 2 weeks it would be complete nonsense. It would be complete garbage because, as I said, I'd be writing about how Elon and Trump are best friends. And then 2 weeks later, I'd be going, they just got a divorce, Right. And Elon Doge was such a brilliant sounding idea. right? The idea of using software to get into the theft and the grift and the excesses and stuff, and then it just turned out not to have anything to do with anything, and
or perhaps hooking up Palantir to all of our information.
Yeah, and perhaps
we don't know, but
no, we know something like that happened. We know
Right.
that somehow that basically plugged. But when they got like Kash Patel, talk about a waste of oxygen.
What is wrong with his eyes, people? Anyway,
I think Kash is just AI. And he oh God, they have videos and stuff. Apparently, someone hacked his emails and got all this crap on him. But what I heard is the Iranians did it, but they hacked Israel to get it. I'm going, no.
But
No, I don't believe any of this. I don't. There's just
either.
nothing.
So what do you guys think then? This trip to China. Why is Jensen Huang, Elon, Tim Cook, Larry Fink, heads of Visa, MasterCard, Eric Trump? Why are they there?
Money to be made.
It's just kayfabe, man. It's just so stupid. I mean, Wang is such a criminal, and they really all are. And it's like
he has a criminal history too.
Correct.
That's the problem.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, Jack from Nobody's Special. I mean, he called all this out 2 years ago. I mean, and you can see
Jack
it. Like,
Jack Gambles did a great job on the private credit market. Oh my God.
I mean, I love Jack, and but it was so funny. So Jack, I was actually talking to him yesterday when I was writing, or 2 days ago on my article, because I was like, Jack, Blue Owl had a $500 million loan out to CoreWeave. Did you know this? And he's like, well, I knew they were trying to raise the money, but we both kind of dived into the 10 Qs and Ks and we're looking at it. And sure enough, NVIDIA came in. So Blue Owl was on the hook to raise $4 billion for a data center in Lancaster, PA. But they also disclosed they had a $500 million loan out to CoreWeave, which is all kinds of problems.
It's just a shell company, right?
It's a shell company. So there is no way that CoreWeave was going to be able to pay that loan back. So what does NVIDIA do? They step in, they give them some sort of fake money, promise investment, and they were able to pay that loan off. But I mean, this is all a house of cards. I mean, it's just
financing, right? Vendor financing. It's a classic. It's the bandwidth guys of 2000.
100%. 100%. These guys are all they're cartoon characters, Michael, in my opinion. And so it's just another show. It's just a show.
By the way, the question I like to keep asking is that, everyone said Trump would put some guy in charge of the Fed who's a printer. And I had this image of Lyle Brainerd or one of these things. And then he puts in Kevin Warsh. Now, the Kevin Warsh story has 2 layers to the onion.
Yeah.
One of them, I think it was in our podcast, Steve Hankey made brief allusion to it, and that is Kevin Warsh's wife. Her father is a super Zionist. He's a super powerful. So, and I don't know if this is relevant at all, but did Israel just put their boy in there? I don't know. I don't even care at this point, right?
Right.
But the other is Kevin has been critical of QE and all the interventions for decades.
Yeah.
And the question is a decade and a half. Is it possible? My theory is that every Fed governor, in retrospect, you can see why they got put in there. And then when we look back, are we going to look back and say Kevin Warsh was basically the first guy of a Volcker flavor who was put in there to really tolerate the pain and suffering and to put it back to the system and escort it down into the valley of death and to unwind the
I love that
bullshit.
imagery.
I know. And unwind all the messes to do the great financial reset.
Yeah.
And it sure as hell wouldn't have been Lyle Brainerd. And so if you'd asked me who's the least likely person to get appointed by Trump, I would have said Kevin Warsh.
Yeah.
That would have been a no-brainer.
Yeah. I heard from some people kind of with DC connections that it was a trade-off Trump made. I think all of this, who knows, right?
No,
No, I
really?
don't think,
Trump made a trade-off?
who
Oh,
knows?
come on.
But Dave, I got to tell you, and Michael knows that my brain went insane when all this Iran stuff started. Like, I was just like, what is happening? And I finally found some peace because where I got to, and I'm not saying this will happen tomorrow, I'm not saying it's going to happen in 2 years, but I really do believe, like, after looking at where the narratives were converging, that we might try to restructure our debt and we might actually default.
Right.
Like we,
Right.
and so, and it's, and a lot of people are like, no, this is about China. No, this is this. No, this is that. And I'm like, just block out the noise. What else are they going to do? And inflate away, we won't have a society. Like, that doesn't even make sense. And so they're going to have to do something. And to your point, someone like Warsh, although, I don't even believe in one person, right? Like it's more of
But he's a very odd appointment.
Very odd. And so this is why I think we've all said this at one point, is like, you have to look at what they're doing, not what they're saying. And that's really my focus these days, is what are they actually
no one's
doing?
even talking about Warsh. No one's talking about this history of his. Right. So as they're talking about Warsh's appointment and stuff like this, and they're pretending like they're going to give him some guff and stuff, but there was no chatter really. And I'm going, they just appointed a hawk. Now, is he therefore not a hawk, which a lot of people are saying? And I'm going, I don't think so, actually. I am taking the other side of that bet. I think his job is to make sure that we finally do the washout. So that they can start all. You have to shake the Etch-a-Sketch and start over when the picture gets ugly.
I agree. I mean, you have to start over. Like, there's no other thing to do. So who knows? Like, could he be? And I guess we'll see. But I agree with you. I mean, it is wild. It's the fun thing to do now is to watch mainstream media, right? Like, with a certain like view of, okay, what are you trying to tell me today? Like, what are you trying to make me think today? And honestly, I like scanning the headlines are always so funny because like with my news sort of perspective, like 3 years ago, I read everything Bloomberg or Wall Street Journal wrote. Now it's like, I just read the headlines. I'm like, oh yeah.
Bloomberg's headline that said a high price for oil is good for inflation. And I'm going, really? That's quite a reach for me. I do think the complexity caused by a supply problem causing inflation and money printing causing inflation is really confusing the story. And I don't know how to process that. I don't know how to deal with the fact. And I also think the Fed is terrified of acting and then the world seeing they got no bullets left.
Well, anybody who's paying attention knows they don't have any bullets left. I mean,
I know, but they don't want to show it.
The 2-year went to 4% yesterday. The 2-year, 4%, like yield. Like that.
Well, they're now already building the narrative that they're going to hike, not drop.
Well, why? Because the bond market's telling them you're going to effing hike. Like, the bond market has already said, like, we're going to 4 people on the 2-year. And so I think that if anybody, when they did their first hike in September of, was it 24? All the years run together now. But when they did that first 50 basis point hike and the 10-year just went, it was like the Fed's not in control, people. Like, they're not in control. The bond market is. And the bond market is very fascinating right now in terms of, like, structurally. But anyway, go ahead, Dave. What were you going to say?
Tell me about the Japanese bond market. The Japanese 30 years hit a multi-decade high. I asked this question yesterday, so I'm being redundant, but I want your opinion. By the way, little plug. Well, by the time this shows, it'll already be out. But it was a zero hedge debate, and I asked it was entertaining. I can't understand how the Japanese bond went from the 30-year went from essentially zero to what is it now, about 3%, somewhere in there, and how there haven't been complete detonations. And they gave me an answer. They gave me an answer. Do you have an answer?
I don't have an answer. And
I don't either.
I think it's too complicated. I think that anybody who has certainty, they immediately sort of get downgraded on my list.
Well, they said the weakening of the yen was holding it together. They both agreed on that.
Maybe. Okay.
I don't know. I'm not. This is way outside my skill set. This is the people who say you shouldn't invest in the United States, you should invest in deep value Asian, and I go, I have no idea what's going on in Indonesia. There is no way I'm going to invest in deep value Asia.
So let me tell you guys a funny story. And sorry to be talking so much, but back when I was in grad school in around 1997, and I was also working.
You're such a young thing.
I feel very old. But I was also working at the Wall Street Journal for the president of International, who was married to the managing public editor at the time, Peter Kahn. Her name was Karen Elliott House, and she would host like these editorial board meetings where, we'd bring in somebody like Lee Kuan Yew or someone like this. And this is how reporters got informed, by the way. It wasn't like they were out there. She had actually been in Vietnam, had done a lot of legwork, but they stayed in one hotel and they still got the official narrative. But this is how you bring in somebody like Lee Kuan Yew, and then the whole reporters would sit there and then they'd learn how to talk about him, right? Well, what was fascinating is at the same time we were just kind of recovering from the Lewinsky scandal in the United States, right? The blue dress, blah, blah, blah. Everybody remembers all of those accessories. You had a similar scandal in Malaysia with Mahathir, who was, I think he was either in an election to become
the way, Lewinsky was the PSYOP too.
Correct. This is why I'm saying this. We all know, like, if Lewinsky was the worst thing he did, we'd all be cheering at this point.
No, but Lewinsky
right?
herself was, in my opinion, trafficked.
The JFK Jr.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
So then suddenly, Mahathir, you get the story about Mahathir. It's Mahathir in the mattress. Well, guess what was on the mattress? The same thing that was on the blue dress. And I wrote a paper, and I was just like,
I've got a dog bed that's cleaner than the shit this guy sleeps on.
But they recycle these things, Dave. That's my point. Like, they literally recycle the same trope, the same story. They just turn it a little differently. And so,
wait, the hantavirus on a cruise ship is recycling?
Correct. Yeah.
You know what hanta means in Hebrew?
I don't even want to know, but okay, yes, I do.
Scam, fraud. Scam or fraud. Now, hanta comes from supposedly Korean, but it's still funny. You got to admit, it's still funny.
It's so funny. And I just think that that's what I mean, that I don't particularly think they are the smartest people. Like, they're not even original. Like, it's like,
but they've also figured out they don't have to be.
Well,
they don't, like, if you look at the JFK assassination, it looks very elaborate. They realize now they can just do it and then just mow us down by total media control. The project, what's the media control? That's not Monarch. That's not Paperclip. Come on, give me, what's the media control one?
Too much of memory.
I know. There's so many of these CIA projects. It is now absolute is the problem. Mm-hmm. And they're even invading in a very big way the alternative media. Guys like Tim Pool. Oh boy. Oh 100%. My God. But when he first showed up as a former lefty turned right winger, I'm going, oh, this is cool. Another one of those. Another Glenn Greenwald type, right? And then all of a sudden you realize, no, Tim Pool is working for people.
Yeah. No, and that's why certain of our big influencers now I question, right? And I think you and I have talked about this before too, that they may not even know. I mean, this happened to us in Helene, where, at the time Travis had he still has a very big channel, but he kind of got Sean Ryan. And what I mean by that is, we were looking for people to tell the story because nobody was telling the story, right? And so he came across this lady who was, and what was happening is all these camps were springing around, to try and take care of what nobody else was taking care of. And he totally, it was like a honeypot trap. Like he got pulled in. She, was basically telling him about her story, what was happening. And I was watching this, and then she lied. And I knew she lied because she said, we can't get a 501c3. The IRS has shut it all down. They don't want people to get food in North Carolina. And I'm typing Travis being like, I can get her because I'd gotten a 501c3 the day before. And then I keep listening to her. I'm like, oh, she's lying, and she's lying on purpose. And sure enough, this became a huge thing for Travis. It tanked his channel because we realized she was probably a crisis actor. In fact, something happened later where there was one of the people from our search and recovery team was at headquarters, and the guy's like, you got to get out. We've got somebody from CIA coming in, and he's walking out the door and she's walking in. I mean, and so what happened to Sean Ryan is somebody contacted him, gave him a fake story as well. He
well,
ran.
I think Sean is trying to get it right, although he could just be. He could just be better at hiding, but I think he's trying to get it right. There's a couple.
Yeah.
Tucker scares me a little bit, but he sure as hell is raising hell. And his wake up moment was when he went to Iraq.
Yeah.
And if you read one of his books, I can't remember which, but he described what he saw in Iraq, and he said, "Oh my God, this is just terrible." And I think that's when he woke up and said, I've been on the wrong side of this. He has been duped. Right before I went on, he posted a video. He posted an interview of the guy who was the CEO of Nikola, the electric truck maker. And he got completely duped by the guy.
Yeah.
And the Hindenburg team totally shredded this guy. And then the next day they came out and they totally shredded the narrative on Tucker. And I was chatting with them a little bit, and they said, "Oh yeah, this was just a ridiculous podcast." But even if I didn't know the Hindenburg guys at all, and even if I hadn't seen it, you could listen to Tucker's podcast and you could hear Tucker getting duped. You could hear the guy was just totally full of crap.
Do you know who I think is totally full of crap?
Go for it.
You're not going to agree. In fact, I know
I might.
A lot of people that we think or know John Kirikou.
Oh no, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Something.
How many people have I asked? I have asked so many people, do you trust him?
Yeah.
So many people. I've said, do you trust him? And he's got this great origin story and stuff like that. But I'm going, yeah, but Howard Hunt did time in jail too. So let's.
Yeah.
He also talks like he's a tough guy, and it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm sorry.
He does like the party line, right? The alternative party line, like almost like the Tucker, Marjorie, Taylor Greene.
Just edgy enough. Enough. Yeah.
And I saw his facade slip, Dave. I was watching it, and I was just like, and it was someone asked him, and it might have been Tucker. I can't remember who it was. And I had been a fan because, he was one of the few people talking about 9/11 and just, and also the torture and all of this. But in an interview, it might have been Sean Ryan, I can't remember, but he gets asked about his family. And I'm talking like the facade, because his kids don't talk to him, and like one of his former wives.
Right. He's mentioned that. I watch what he says, but I
watch him. I don't believe him. I watch him. And his facade just completely fell apart. And then he starts talking about how he would actually kind of get somebody to open up to him, how he would do an intelligence operation when he's recruiting and how he would act. And you realize that's exactly what he's doing to the interviewee.
I know.
It's so
that's
obvious.
exactly right. And he also tells stories about being in prison. And they sound like a guy who's just making shit up.
I agree.
His toughness. Yeah. He goes, well, I told the warden this, And
he looks like a nerd. I mean, he's a nerd.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, exactly. So
but I also think that's part of his persona. Yeah.
I have asked probably 20 different serious players, do you trust him? I've just never been able to buy the shtick. He did an interview with Bustamante, and I never trusted Bustamante. Bustamante did something really funny, though. Bustamante went out on social media and said, okay, throw any question you want at me and I'll answer them. And he got probably 1,000. And I read them all. And what was great about him is, and I know he's not ex-CIA, he's just been reassigned. And I read them, and he was funnier than shit. Mm-hmm. He was funny. So someone would say, what about Area 51? He says it's a total hoax. He said it is there to hide Area 50 and 52. And I'm laughing my ass off. And then he says, I'm not joking. And I'm going, oh my God, this is comedic gold, right?
Yeah.
I don't think any of these ex-CIA. I don't know. No. I don't know which ones you can possibly trust. By the way, the kayfabe comes from Eric Weinstein, who wrote an article in 2013 about how it's all just kayfabe.
Yeah. I mean, it's so clear.
So let's say, who do you trust? Start naming names.
At this point, no one. I mean,
how about
honestly,
Candace Owens?
No.
See, I like Candace Owens. I haven't been able to catch her in a lie.
So I think that this is, again, another thing Matt Smith said that really, I think she's a containment like they round up the dissidents, give them enough, right, to because I got to tell you, Dave, a lot of stuff that she did, I appreciate, right. I read Chaos because she, talked about it. And so I watch her like I watched these other folks, but I don't trust her. And I never, there was something very inauthentic about her performance. And I just know it is you can tell she rehearses it, but at the same time, the way that I look at it now is there's valuable information that I can take in and decide, okay, does this converge somewhere else? Or is this
just
Have you
caught her in a lie?
I have not caught her in a lie, but I also, she doesn't so she talks a lot about her network of, citizen journalists. And it's all very, I mean, this is how you bring others to your cause, make them feel like they're a part of justice. And she does that very, very well. But if you go back to, right, there you go, Mike. If you go back to the Macron story, that guy wrote that book. I mean, she's not really, and
Right, but I think she admitted that. No, she said that.
She does admit that and say that. But I think that, I have to see her for what she is, which is a content creator, and but that brings valuable information to the forefront, and things that kind of I think we need to hear and are jarring. And so
okay,
so that's kind of
Greenwald.
I don't know him that well. I hear people talk about him, but I don't know him that well.
Mike, you can chime in here, buddy, because you're black-pilled up the kazoo.
Well, I just think generally with all these people, there's some aspects I take from them that I appreciate, but I don't know. I think everybody makes some kind of deal with the devil to get to where they are, and I've said that before, and everybody's done that.
I'm still trying to figure out how to do this.
Well, but everybody,
there's gotta be money in this, but I'm not finding it.
No, I'm just saying, even in general, people that work regular jobs. I mean,
I've resorted to sexual favors behind the dumpster at Wendy's because I just can't seem to get the big gig.
But no, I don't watch her. I know she's making a lot of money. I mean, she's making a ton of money, and she's moving around between Macron's wife to Erica Kirk to Laura Loomer to Turning Point.
You can imagine her obsession over Erica Kirk is because I was supposed to have dinner with her and Charlie years ago. They were tight for a long time. Now I don't know if Charlie was legit at all.
It's becoming to the point. It's becoming to a point though where this is like Jerry Springer. This is full circle to the kayfabe, and and it makes me wonder.
Transgender daughters.
Well, it makes me wonder with all this. I'm like, maybe they're all in on it, and they're just feeding off each other's audiences by doing this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And Elon's loving this because it's all being done on his platform, all this drama. So and I don't know, but you're watching
And by
this.
the way, Grok is a pathological liar on certain subjects.
I never
Grok
use
is
it.
Really,
I
use Grok a lot, but
No,
boy, there are some. I did a multi-exchange with Grok, and finally got Grok to admit something.
Oh yeah.
When I just kept going at it.
No, you can make it admit it. It's just.
It finally says fuck it. Yeah, you expect it to say fuck it. You're right. You know?
But it is made to keep you engaging. Like that's what I noticed about it. Like it just, even when it gets to that place, it wants more from you, more of your time, more of a like.
What's great for when you want to say, so, like I have to write some lecture notes on a particular topic, and I said, could you provide me the 10 best, most prominent books on this particular subject? And it's really useful for stuff like that, because if you Google it, you can't get near anything like that. So, how about I think Max Blumenthal? He did a great job on Ukraine, in my opinion. He's done a great job. Now, what if you were to find out the whole Gaza story was all kayfabe? What, wouldn't that be mind-boggling, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. How would you know? I mean,
you wouldn't. You wouldn't.
And this is what James Dellingpole and I we brought up the story with the pilot, right? The downed pilot that somehow managed to hike 7,000 feet. Didn't he have a broken ankle or something? And he knew right away.
Him by his heartbeat.
He knew
by his heartbeat.
He knew right away. James knew right away. The movie that I had in my head was that Behind Enemy Lines with Owen Wilson, where the plane got shot down in Croatia and he's running, and all he had was a little 20-ounce of Coca-Cola, and yet this guy was able to hike 7,000 feet, hide, and then they rescued him and blew up everything and.
Yeah.
And you don't even hear about that story now.
They lost some major planes. Do you buy the alternative model that it was actually a fucked up attempt to do something, and they've covered it up with the downed pilot story? One of the claims is they were trying to get the uranium out of there because they had some major hardware in there. They had a couple of very large planes and stuff supposedly, and they got the shit blown out of them supposedly. Do you think we've lost a lot of people in the Iranian theater, and they're just hiding that?
You'll never know. You'll never know.
Yeah,
I know. We're now just guessing. Everything we talk about is a guess at this point.
Yeah, because they have to sign for their death benefits or whatever. People at home, NDAs of some sort, and it's just people are so unwilling to talk these days. Like really, but yeah, I don't know. I don't believe any of it. I don't know. And it's plausible that we have a lot of KIA and wounded, but I don't know. I have no way of knowing.
I don't either.
I'm smirking because of, coming back to my conversation with James about the spaceship, how the Artemis II, and like.
Oh yeah. Well, that whole thing was so bizarre.
I texted Michael, and I was like, Michael, was I asleep? Did we know this was going to happen? Like, did this just come out of nowhere? And
the 7 or so babes who are all,
oh, that was so ridiculous.
And, my God, that was so made for TV.
And the product placement, what was the product placement in the ship? James said, I didn't see it, but he said there was some type of perfect product placement.
Said something,
Nutella.
Oh, probably. That makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, the Blue Origin with like Katy Perry and Lauren Sanchez. I was just
by the way, Katy Perry in the satanic world is front and center.
Yeah.
Well, look who she's with now.
Look at her.
Look who she's dating. She's dating Trudeau.
Is she really?
Yeah, she was at Coachella with Justin Trudeau.
Oh my God.
She was at Coachella. Way. She was at Coachella with him.
No way. No. Oh my.
And I love the Justin Trudeau's the bastard child of Castro story, which I think is probably true. You know that story?
I do not.
So
tell me.
So just Google it up, Justin Trudeau and Castro, and there's pictures. There's pictures of Trudeau's mom and his father, and with Castro, and Castro's holding Trudeau, as a baby, and mom's looking at him like with this googly eyes, like only a mother looking at the father of her child would, right? But at one point, she's with Trudeau, and she's got his hand on his chest. And what I'll tell you as a guy, when the chick puts your hand on your chest, you're going to get some action that night. That's it. That's it. That's a personal space invasion of a higher order, right? On your back, no problem. On the chest, no. It's game. It's game on. It is absolutely. Oh my golly! I don't need to pump her up with any more beer tonight. We're gonna go.
That's wild because I think, Michael, on many of your last podcasts, you've asked, what is this story with Cuba, and it's so interesting, right? This one place has been so much a part of our.
We should have just absorbed it and funded it, and right? It's crazy.
Weird. It's just weird, right? I do think there's something there that none of us understand.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Because I've asked a lot of people why we didn't just say, "Hey, look, we'll cut the whole thing. Let's be friends.
Right.
We want to grow some sugar cane while we're down there. You can push some drugs if you want. Right. That sort of thing. Just don't get in the way of the CIA. They're a problem.
Right. Yeah, let them run around. It's fine. Yeah.
Right.
Hyman Roth.
That should have happened 30 years ago.
Hyman Roth and Michael Corleone could build their casino like they wanted in Godfather Part 2.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So why not? We needed a demon, I think. We needed a Western Hemisphere demon.
Yeah. Yeah. And, this article I was reading right before I hopped on very much talks about Iran that way, right? Like that, we had signed previously with like UAE, Saudi to provide weapons. And essentially, if Iran didn't exist, there would be no reason for the military-industrial complex to keep churning out weapons, and that a lot of these agreements happened before the war. So it's fascinating to think about that. If you think about kind of, I think one of the things that makes the most sense to me, and again, I have no idea if it's right or not, is that there are these control centers, like the financial industrial complex, the military industrial complex. You might even say the pharmaceutical.
Social industrial complex, right? All the PC crap. Yeah, right.
Sick. Yeah.
Well, that's what Simon Dixon talks about. And Dave, you did a debate or conversation.
Simon. Yeah, I did one with Simon. Simon's one of these guys who's got this encyclopedic. He reminds me somewhat of Luongo, where he's got, all these connectivities. And so, when I am the great interrupter, so the best kind of conversation is one of these where we're just throwing shit at the wall. But I had to sort of jam in on Simon to get things clarified, and then of course the comment section said Collum kept interrupting Simon, but there are guys like Michael Yan, for example, will rattle on. And I like Michael, but he'll rattle on for almost nonstop because of his mind just races like crazy. Yeah. So you have to literally sort of jam your finger in there and say, "Wait a minute, Michael, clarify that."
Well, but I bring up Simon because he talks about. I watched his conversation with Craner last week, and he was talking. He talks about the financial industrial complex versus the military industrial complex, and the financial industrial complex is winning or going to win. This is all pre-orchestrated. But like the question I have, and I've never met him, but if you're going financial industrial complex to the military industrial complex, how would the military lose? Because they could just show up at your building with a tank and say, "I'm blowing it up if you don't change this right now."
Differentiate them as also to treat them as separate entities. Not to mention the Silicon Valley industrial complex, right? I mean, there's just a gazillion of them. There could be like mafia family flavor where they're battling each other for control. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Here's an interesting narrative from the 70s that's been bugging me.
Melody, were you going to say something? Dave, hold
on. Quickly. Didn't anybody else find it weird that Spencer Cox, the guy that was running for president after Charlie Kirk got killed, is also all for this new data center? I don't know if you guys remember Spencer.
Say that again, Spencer Cox. Which one is he again?
He was the governor of Utah. And if you remember, like right after the Kirk assassination, he did this. I was like, oh, he's trying to run for president. Like it was all, we've got to have unity. We've got to come to, it was all, just total BS, but he was grandstanding. And, people would talk about, oh, look at the way he's handling this. He looks like an effective leader. But then now, so he's also the one that is really pushing this Utah data center forward. So it's just funny how these players pop up again and then, kind of where their origin are. But go ahead to your 1970s. Yeah.
So two things about the 70s oil crisis, which, by the way, we're looking at another one now, right?
Right.
There's an interview of the Shah of Iran where Mike Wallace says something about the oil restriction, and the Shah of Iran looks at him and says, the oil is flowing as much as before.
Yeah.
And Wallace is confounded by this. I think what the Shah is saying is this crisis is not coming from the Middle East.
Right.
So then that led me to the next question, which now really bothers me. Is you might not know this, but you certainly have read about it, of buying, you couldn't get gas except on alternate days.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem I'm having is that in no way, shape, or form is because of a shortage of gas. Because if I can't buy gas on Tuesday, I'll buy it on Monday or Wednesday.
Right.
And all of a sudden, now that's supposedly creates these big lines. I'm going, but wait a minute, there should be a line on Monday because the guys on Tuesday are not competing with the Monday guys.
Right.
So the whole lines at the gas pump, alternate days, I cannot find a rational explanation. And someone tried to say, well, it would put some sort of constraint in there. And I go, no, it wouldn't. It just means you top off your tank when right?
Right. It's so, Dave, I need to go down this road because it is so eerily, I wrote about this last week, familiar to the 70s. Like it's like this, it's like, oh, we weren't going to get, 2 spikes of inflation. Now we are like basically if you look at 22, which is a dry run, in my opinion, right? It's fascinating how we always have to do everything twice. I don't know if you know, and this is, I think we talked about this, I can't remember, but this is something that comes from PTSD, trauma theory, things like this, that like you almost always have to do everything twice because
it's the bike helmet. The first hit breaks the helmet, the second hit breaks the skull.
Right. And so if you think about 22, we were having very similar conversations. Everybody thought that, Europe was going to freeze to death. We weren't going to get grain from Ukraine.
I wrote about that.
Yeah. I mean, we were all, I was convinced. I mean, that's when I bought my first set of seeds, and silver. And I was like, okay. But then, the weather.
Mild winter, right.
But somehow they got around it. But it's also a way, if you think about it, if you're just, standing back and you're thinking plot or narrative, kind of like Walter Kern does, it's like a way to get us immune, right? Like we're not going to freak out this time. Like if you're a normal person going to work 9 to 5 every day, you're not thinking about this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, we heard this crap before. Like it's going to be fine.
The first one is desensitize you, and the second one is to actually do what they want to do.
Freaking hammer over your head.
Did Germany destroy itself, or is that just a narrative? Because Germany looks like it destroyed itself.
Maybe. I mean, it seems that, when you think about the other question I just keep asking myself is who are the losers in what's happening right now and who are the winners? Because
regular people.
We for sure are. But, the people that are so gung-ho on the China train, I'm like, they're making bank on sulfur right now. They are making a crap ton of money. And in fact, we just read this past week that they're adding to their strategic reserves for oil right now. They're adding. So exactly what are we doing to China? And so then stop yourself and say, okay, who is actually not winning in this at all? In no way. And you come down to 2 different, well, besides us, clearly, right? It is us. But who else from if we're playing the game of risk? From a financial perspective.
Well, I think Europe's getting screwed on everything.
Correct. I think it's Europe, but who else? And this is the one that's going to shock, I think, everybody.
Go for it.
Japan.
Israel. how are they benefiting financially right now? And in fact, so I did like an inversion exercise. Like, okay, what if, and I know this is crazy because why is it crazy? Because we've been shoveled a whole bunch, and I'm not a fan of a lot of this stuff. But if you think about it, I mean, we don't know for sure. We don't know what's happened, but in reality, they are way more vulnerable now than they were before.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's true.
I mean, you remember
Majorly.
Jan back in June of last year saying, they're done, they're obliterated, they're gone. Like they're not even somebody to take seriously. He said that, and at the time it was very jarring, and I was like, but it started me thinking. And so now they are totally vulnerable, right? They aren't the ones. Like it's theoretically, it would be the United States that would be funding this, rebuild of the Gaza Strip or whatever. And so theoretically, the United States, the banksters would be making all that money. Now, if you believe that, okay, they are that, the financial industrial complex, then okay, you can say, well, somehow. But in reality, if you just look at it from a risk perspective, Europe and Israel are the two entities that are faring the worst out of all of those. But it's just a thought experiment.
And
that
Europe got us annihilated by them being the first recipients of open borders.
Oh gosh,
Europe got crushed. I was on a Zoom call
Absolutely.
with a parliamentarian from Sweden, and I was on with several parliamentarians from several European countries, one of which talked about having the Satanist thing totally covered, and MI5 wants nothing to do with it. But this parliamentarian, I said, so I am reading stuff that I want to know if this is true, the information coming across the pond. And I said, what we're being told here is that Sweden is the most dangerous country in Europe now. And she said, that is now true. Sweden.
Interesting.
It's because they took all the immigrants open arms.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was so crazy when they had all that violent crime and rapes. Have you guys ever seen that series? I think it was a Showtime, maybe it was HBO, but it's called Years and Years.
No.
I've now, and this is something I think we talked about a little bit the last time, is interesting which actors and actresses always show up in certain movies, right? Like
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah. Or like Emma Thompson, right? Always in these political movies, right? And she's in this Years and Years. And literally, guys, it is a playbook for what we're going through right now. And it was, I think, probably released in 22. Maybe I'd have to go back. But it's about the migrants. It's about, I mean, you get all the way to nuclear war. It's about like political leaders that there's this one scene where you see the Trump-like, but she's a woman in this series, but it's the Trump-like candidate. And she's talking about child pornography. And you see like the left-wing liberal just get up and be like, yeah. And the right-winger, yeah. And they all come together on this populist, standing against child pornography, which I think we all should be against, of course. But right.
But it's a great way to hang a person trivially.
It's like, it's corralling everybody. And there's a scene where this one guy's like behind, she's just, this candidate has just spoken at a political rally, and she comes into this cloistered, library type thing with a boardroom table to talk. And this guy, and she says, I'm not the one in charge. It is very, if you believe kind of that line of thinking that they have to tell us what's going on, they have that like there's
right. The satanic, right. If you show your hand.
Yeah. If you believe that, and I've really tried to look to see like where that comes from. I haven't had time, but this show, watch it, guys. And they have the whole transhumanist movement in it. You watch this kid, she says she sits down at the dinner table, she's like, I'm trans. And they're like, oh God, you're trans? Like they think trans how we think about it. And she's like, no, I'm going to go get killed and put my brain into the cloud and I'm going to exist on this other level. It is, guys, watch this show. It is so fascinating, especially, I mean, to me back then it was terrifying, but now I'm looking at it, I was like, holy cow. Like,
So I call this fictionalizing reality.
Right. Right.
And I've written about it, but I haven't published it. So I'm writing, but I'm not publishing. And so you give me a topic, satanic cult, you say Eyes Wide Shut.
Right.
MK Ultra, you say Born Identity.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so they show us. There's a great, by the way, documentary on the Scientologists.
Mm-hmm.
Scientology is a scary group of characters, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know why they do it. I'm told the CIA has like a $500 million budget that just goes straight to Hollywood. And Hollywood is certainly the messenger. So it's not a shock that everything in Hollywood is under some sort of control. But I don't know if it's to anchor us so that when you try to tell someone that there's trained assassins like Luigi Mangione,
Right.
Thomas Crooks, you can go on and on and on. I don't think any of these lone assassins are just crazy people.
Mm-hmm.
They are crazy, I think, but they're induced crazy. And actually, at the end of his book, Family of Secrets, Russ Baker, quite a few years ago, this was written. He said you have to go back and reevaluate all of the political assassinations that you were told were just political assassinations by lone gunmen. He says you have to reevaluate all of them now. And he wasn't. The book doesn't have a conspiratorial flavor. It sounds like it really is just documenting the profound interconnectedness of the elite. The profound interconnectedness where this person knows this guy, and then he becomes this guy's on his board of directors, and this guy becomes president of this company, and the connectivity is so disturbing that you go, George Carlin, it's a big club and you ain't in it.
Mm-hmm.
So in the spirit of who do you trust, Tucker's an interesting character because Tucker hides stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he does it in some sense in a literary device method. So you can tell Tucker something and he pretends not to know it. He goes, really? And he could tell you 10 times what you could tell him on the subject.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that means he's psyop. To be blunt, I asked him, did you get offered an appointment when Trump got elected in 2024? And he said, no, but I could have gotten one. And I said to him, I've never told anyone this. I said to him, but at this point, he gets attacked so much, this can't have any negative effect. I said to him, what would you have wanted? He said, CIA.
Mm.
And that caught my attention. But it could be wanted to clean it up. There's just no way to know, because if he really wanted to be a deep, dark bastard, I'm not sure he would have said to me CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I also was haunted. Did you watch Buckley and Tucker? Did you watch the Buck? Oh, was that great?
Only because you did it. You said it on.
Well, did it resonate?
It did, but I had an issue. There was one moment in the podcast where I was like, "Oh, that's performance," and I can't remember exactly when it happened. But it's funny. Then Matt Taibbi actually called it out as well when he did this, News This Week or whatever that news show is that's now over, that he was doing with Michael Tracy. But it was like one moment where I was like,
I don't trust Michael Tracy at all.
He's a fascinating character. But
by the way, Matt, I won't say any more than this. Matt and Walter Kern had a real falling out.
Oh, I know.
But it was big, and Walter's hinted a few things at me, and without giving me details, and if he gave them, I couldn't probably say them, but Walter's hinted that it wasn't just a disagreement.
Yeah. No, something's
going on there too.
Yeah. It was really bad, and you can tell from the way both of them talk about it. Yeah, but yeah, like
Matt looked more caught off guard by it.
Oh, he looked like he was going to cry on that show.
Right.
Like, it was
when he announced
so
that it was over.
Yeah,
right.
it was awful. I mean, I was upset because I really enjoyed their different perspectives.
I liked it. Oh, I really liked the show. Yeah.
I loved it, and I was like, this is like one of the only things that's keeping me sane, but So it goes. but I did like the episode between the two of them. I do feel like there was still like there was something like there was. I'll have to go back to and tell you which clip I'm talking to where I was like, oh, that was. There's still a party line aspect of it. That was there. Like that they're ushering in the next sort of resistance movement. Kind of if you think about like Marjorie Taylor Greene, these guys, this is all happening. It feels like in concert to kind of bring together a true kind
It's
of
like when
MAGA
Tucker
2.0.
interviewed the means, and then next thing you know, Maha shows up.
Right.
That was
what I mean.
Clearly, that was an introduction of Casey and Callie Means to the world.
Right. So that's kind of what I felt like. It was like, okay, we're ushering in the next movement. And you know what's funny, Dave?
I thought Buckley was very impressive.
Well, I was like, how do I not know this guy exists? I mean, I appreciated his kind of FU style, right? Like he's just.
Well, there's another thing that haunted me as I watched it, and I finally confirmed that I was picking up something correct, and that is Buckley is adopted.
Is he really?
They're not blood brothers. And what I also learned is that their mother left the family without looking back when Tucker was 15.
Wow.
Their mother bolted on him. So there's some real odd things there. But I was watching Tucker and Buckley going, are these guys really brothers? And it turns out that he was adopted.
Yeah,
but I really was enamored with Buckley. I was, and what the problem with the episode, and I tried to tell people get by this, is they start out explaining why, for example, Buckley especially was super pro-Trump, and he explained why. And what I tried to say is no matter which way you lean, by the end you will get what you want to hear, I think. Mm-hmm. And the episode, they talk about the path from being profoundly supportive to totally disgusted. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a very, very important discussion between the two. They both can articulate ideas like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah. Very good. And here's the thing, too, that I found interesting about some of the stuff Buckley said is that he himself admitted that there were moments of disgust before this final disgust, right? And that's where I think I got a little suspicious. Because to me, if you're going to how much credibility do you have if you're going to ignore some of these really egregious sidesteps? And so can I trust you if you just were able to ignore all that stuff?
So Mike is my witness that I've been on a journey in which I've attempted not to throw Trump under the bus the whole way. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons is I don't want to be the guy. So let's say hypothetically Trump really is battling some very important battles. I don't want to be the guy to throw him under the bus because the battles are getting brutal and the psyops are getting brutal. And so I treated each event as a standalone event and say, okay, there's something going on there. That's a problem to me. But and I've now reached the point that I can't find anything that Trump has held true to. Now, here's where Mike and I got into off-air debate.
We're going to do this now with 10 minutes left?
Sure, all right. Sure. Now, you just I think Trump decayed. And I think it's safe to say Mike thinks it doesn't matter. And I've made the argument that, look, if Trump set out to do something with the right idea in mind and it went bad, it is different than if he set out at the very beginning knowing it was not going to work. And I said, so it's like a receiver in the end zone, he drops the winning pass. So what? What if it looked like he intended to drop the pass? What if it looked like he did something stupid when he dropped the pass? They lead to different conclusions about the receiver. And so I hung on to Trump as long as I could because I did not want to be the guy who threw him under the bus just because some left-wing propaganda machine got him.
Mm-hmm. Here's my argument.
So I don't think it's about being dishonest. I don't think it's some fake narrative thing. I think it's Trump supporters were trying to believe that their last chance was still in the game.
It comes back to the superhero. Sorry, the superhero. What was Star Wars: A New Hope?
Yeah.
But to me, the response to that is, what is the end result? That's all that matters. And
I disagree with that.
I know, and we know. We spent an hour talking about that offline last week.
And
I said about 2020. Look at how and we don't need to spend the last 10 minutes. I know Melody's got to go here soon. Talking about this, but like, what was 2020? Who was in charge? How was it handled? What was rolled out during that time? Who's in charge today? Who still praises it to this day? Still praises it. How many people died? Beginning of 2020, all the way through. Isolation. It was okay to snitch on people. Lockdowns. That was all on his watch. And now, mind you, let me just finish this. Now, mind you, like, I did vote for him, so I'm part to blame. But at what point do you start to look back at this and look at the body of work and say, he was in charge of all that? You can't say, I don't accept the dupe thing anymore. He shouldn't be here then. He shouldn't be here. Dave, he shouldn't be here then.
If he started out delegating, we totally agree that him trying to take credit for our warp speed is just ridiculous. We had no trouble with that. I go on the assumption that if he started out delegating to what he thought was the right guy and then it got out of control, he progressively got to be more and more of a problem, but you have to integrate under the entire storyline. And that's different than if he knew that it was bullshit and he put in Fauci and he shut it. I don't think Trump shut down the country. I think the little micro tyrants shut down the country.
He did nothing to stop it, though.
The governors. I agree with
Here
that.
we are. We're doing this again.
We're back to, so I view it
Let
as
Melody chime in. Let Melody chime into this. Let her chime in.
I think watch years and years. I personally, my view is he's a prop. And I think that a lot of these
the whole way.
I mean, look at the Simpsons. What 20 years ago? He was gonna be president, and Lisa's like saying, "Oh, the economy got really bad after Trump," and she wins. The president, like whatever. I mean, I think he's just a member of these families, right? And he's just a prop. And Dave, he may very well believe everything you're saying. Like in his mind, this may very well been how it all worked out, how it played. Like he thought he had an idea and that it was, but I was working for, Bill Bradley when I saw Obama get birthed, and that was, it was a birth that right. You watched it happen. From that point forward, I didn't believe a single thing because working for someone like who ran for the presidential nomination and almost beat Gore, and then worked, I was like his event person. And I mean, they don't have original thoughts, politicians. They have policy people that give them information, and then that's what they say. They don't care. I mean, I used to think, Bill wrote books like Values of the Game and all these about racial tension, and I thought, oh wow, what a great, oh God. I mean,
so the book Family of Secrets, which you haven't read, you should read.
I'm gonna read it. Yeah.
In that book, it's more of an impressionist painting, though. The brush strokes are relevant. It's the feeling. It's the feeling you get from the whole book. They talk about burying stories years in advance, so deep that when the story finally comes out, the journalist really, really believes they got a legitimate story.
Yep.
And weds themselves to the story. And so this is where I can imagine Trump. Because one of the things about Trump, there's these stories about him being the only guy to help a person, right? There's a lot of those kind of stories back when it wasn't relevant. And I could imagine, though, Trump 25 years ago saying, I'm running for the damn presidency, and start burying the stories right away.
Look at Laura Bush, right? I mean,
my God, yes.
Like that is absolute insanity. And most people wouldn't even believe what happened.
We're talking about her killing somebody.
Drunk driving accident. I mean, that's
and
insane.
There's arranged marriages and shit.
Yeah.
This is like a king marrying his daughter to the prince of the neighboring kingdom.
But here's the other thing with all this. I mean, the grifting that's going on right now. I mean, we're talking to the next level. Like,
yes,
and oil trades, the oil trades.
How about the meme coins at the very beginning of all this?
Oh, that was appalling.
I mean, and that's where I come back to too with all of this. It's just like,
I agree with all that. I think that the Trump family made a fortune. The Trump,
they still are.
No. That's right. We're not even close to the end yet. We're not halfway.
They're going to be trillionaires. They're going to be trillionaires by the time he leaves office.
It's like they are looting the system.
By the way,
in the open.
Michael Milken finally got pardoned. Pardoned, which means it gets off your record by Trump in 2020.
And Tina Peters is Tina Peters is still in jail.
Who is?
Tina Peters.
Who's Tina Peters?
Colorado?
I don't know.
You don't know Tina Peters? Melody, you know Tina Peters?
I can't remember was she the teacher? I can't remember. But I know I've heard you talk about it before.
Well, we don't have time to get into it because we're going to
go ahead. I'll go.
It's okay.
Buckley hit me like a truck. Buckley hit me like a truck when he pointed out that from 2020 to 2024, Trump did nothing to help.
No, I thought that was
the J6ers. That hit me like a truck, because they say, well, he wasn't president. But he said, but he had a voice. He could have said they're being treated poorly. He could have done all.
Trump's the only one to help me, except he didn't that time.
He didn't. Right? He helped nobody.
Right.
During that 4 years.
No, Michael, I know you've talked about her, Tina Peters. I can go a few more minutes. She
was a county clerk that was sentenced to 9 years in prison.
Yeah.
For the voting systems breach.
Story.
You don't know this, Dave?
I don't know this.
She's still in prison. Who is it? Is it Gavin McInnes or one of the big media heads has been trying to get her pardoned since Trump came back in.
And what did she was part of, did she call it into question? I forget exactly what she did.
Yeah, she was sentenced to 9 years in prison for her role in the 2021 security breach in the elections office. She was supposed to oversee. I'm just pulling up an article that way I can.
So was she totally framed?
That's what they're saying. But nobody, and I forget now if it's Gavin McInnes or Enrique Terrio, Proud Boys.
What was the organization called that he started? McGinnis? One of the alt-right
Was it Proud Boys? Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys, right. Which started out, by the way, as a joke, supposedly. It really started out innocuously and then got demonized because, of course, domestic terrorism is our biggest problem, according to the narrative. Mm-hmm. Which is a way of saying we're going to spy our asses off on your sorry ass for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that was one heck of a campaign, man. If you go back, I just remember reading, as Trump was coming into power, all these stories about, white men and how awful they are.
I know.
You can go back to
Ruby Ridge, Waco.
It was
oh my
crazy.
God.
And it was creation of the domestic threat. And this is, that lady that Sean Ryan has on his show who is all about the Homeland plot.
Sarah
former
Adams.
CIA. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
You're just man, they start these campaigns early. I think, now that it's almost immediate. You can look at a story and you're like, oh, no, I know where this is going,
TPUSA was registered. I don't know how you register a company, but the trademark it in some way. I don't know how it works, but in 2002. I think, by the way, all these Simpsons shows that forecasted something that happened, I think those are the embedded stories.
Can I share? Let me share something with you guys about that,
Please.
which I've never done before. I've had this person. I went to high school with him. He was on here when I first started it. He went to Harvard, got a degree in cognitive neuroscience. You know the story, Melody? He wrote for the Lampoon.
No, I'm nodding.
He was the president of the Lampoon, if you know what the Lampoon is. That's who Conan.
Harvard Lampoon.
Yep.
Harvard Lampoon.
Yep.
International.
Okay.
He was president of it. Conan O'Brien wrote for that. B.J. Novak from The Office.
Oh yeah.
He decided that he did not want to go to medical school, and goes out to LA. The Simpsons were looking for younger writers. This is back in like 2001 because we're the same age. And they see an article from the Lampoon. He comes down, auditions. He ended up becoming a writer for 11 years, writer/producer with a bachelor's degree in cognitive neuroscience. It's interesting, right? Now, like, I didn't think anything of it at the time, and it made me wonder. Like, he was on my show. He's like the 4th episode I ever did, and I went down to Universal Studios and recorded with him. But I think of it now, I'm like, God, I wonder how many other cognitive neuroscientists
I think more
were writing for all these stuff, and it wasn't just part of The Simpsons. All these shows.
So every major psych department in the country was CIA sponsored. Every last one of them. Harvard, Yale, they all were getting CIA money to study shit that the CIA wanted to know about. Skinner was CIA. These guys were all there was the Minnesota twin study. You know, the twins who separate at birth and they those are all CIA derived.
Yeah.
They separated those kids and studied them, and then they reunite. They compare there's like 56. There's a set of triplets documentary, Three Identical Strangers documentary. Yeah. You want to see a spooky documentary, watch Three Identical Strangers. And these kids figured out as adults, one of them committed suicide, but as adults, they figured out that they'd been separated by an agency that claimed you can't place multiplets in adoption. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, you got to be kidding me. There are parents out there that say, give me a 6-pack. I'm that desperate to adopt, right? Adoption is so hard to pull off. If you said, look, I want a Labrador puppy, I'd say, sorry, you've been waiting 2 years. Here's 2. You go, give me 2. Right? That's the way it works. And they were told, oh, you couldn't be placed. And then the CIA studied their asses off, and then they rediscovered each other. And then they find out that the guy was at Cornell Med. He published nothing. The TAs for the course said, we weren't sure. They were still alive. They said, we weren't sure what we were actually doing here, right? Mm-hmm. The TAs admitted there was something about the study they were doing of these twins, of these adopted kids. They found the archives of Yale, in the Yale archives, and they were all redacted up the kazoo.
Yeah, was it you or somebody else, The Rape of the Mind? I started that, and It's just chilling. It's so chilling. It's just chilling. It's almost, I've been listening to it at night, and I'm like, no, I have to turn that off now, because you're just like, oh,
I
my
do
word.
All my audiobooks driving. I do them all in the car.
I listened to quite a few on my last trip. But yeah, it's
I even do it just driving 10 minutes to work.
Yeah, but these are old concepts, right? Like they're old ideas, and you know, if they were writing about them then, because this was published, was it the 50s, I think, The Rape of the Mind. But it's just like, you know, this is inculcated now. This is part and parcel of all of it, you know, and so to ignore it, I think, is anybody that doesn't realize that this is, you know, that we are in some psyop like 24/7 to some degree.
And you almost can't afford to ignore. I could say ignore it, but just be aware that you're ignoring it, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the problem is you're so easily duped. And what's really a problem is they say the high IQ types are the most easy to dupe.
Well, I think that's true, right? Because to me, or something I've just been noticing about myself, like when I will get to a narrative that actually makes sense, like there's this calm, right, that happens. It's like, oh, yes, it's rest. Like, yes. And then I have to question that, like, why, you know, because And so when it gets wrapped too neatly, even if, let's say, it's very complex, that makes it even worse, right? Because
you're almost more comfortable with the loose ends.
Yeah. So I agree. I think it's thinkers, people, and I said one day, like in a Substack, I wrote, like, one day I'm going to write all the times I've been a useful idiot in my life.
Right. That would be a multi-volume series for me.
Multi-volume for me. Like, just how much of an idiot, even though I was always never duped like the executives at my companies during the crisis, I was still an idiot. You know, I just bought so much, like we were saving the world, you know, all that crap. I bought it all.
You wanted
So
to be the good guys.
I
You wanted to
wanted,
be the good
yeah,
guys.
I did. And we were, guess what we were all watching? And that's the funny thing about this is like, the big five, Chase, Citi, Wells, us, and Bank of America, we would have daily meetings called the consortium. And so we were all talking to each other. And guess which show we were all watching at the time? I mean, it'd be impossible to guess, but it's Battlestar Galactica. This small band of humans out there trying to save the universe, coming together.
Here's another book series that drives me nuts. What did the younger generation who went all PC woke and bullshit, right? What did they all grow up reading? And the answer is Harry Potter.
Yeah.
You start with Harry Potter. You go to Hogwarts. They pull your name out of a hat and you get assigned to a group and you become that group. Heaven forbid you're a Slytherin, because that means you're a slimy piece of shit. And the entire generations of kids were taught that the Slytherins are the bad guys and these guys are the good guys. And I'm going, Jesus, they created identity politics with Harry fucking Potter.
Who's Harry Potter then?
Fascinated that she's the one, J.K. Rowling, right, that came in.
Who's battling the identity politics.
I mean, that you, like, if you sit, you sit and think about it, you're just like, wow.
Yeah, someone dropped acid in my coffee.
Right. I mean, that is what it feels like. You're like, that you can't even make some of this stuff up. But Michael,
by the way,
go ahead.
Rosemary's Baby, created by Polanski, who was married to Sharon Tate, who got killed by Charles Manson. Right. Holy shit, I watched Rosemary's Baby, which is a documentary, best I can tell.
Yeah.
On acid.
Well, what about what James Delingpole said about vampires? Did you hear that part about vampires and how like they basically replaced the idea of sacrificing children and with young beautiful women to make it more appealing? But he was going back to the origin of Dracula.
Yeah.
Well, there's another theory, by the way, that the Hollywood guys who have transgender kids, it is considered a minimally acceptable way to sacrifice your children.
I've seen that before. Just accidentally, I saw a whole thread on that. But it is actually, when you stop and think about it, it's pretty wild. And you just, and I think it is meant to kind of, I think the biggest goal is to just kind of wrangle up certain sets of dissidents, keep them occupied. But Michael, I know there was something you wanted to talk about. Looting the system was one of the things.
Oh, the last thing was my intention was to start with. Excuse me. My intention was to start with this, but we got sidetracked. What Ed had said in relation to swap lines, 2019 to now.
Yeah, and I think what. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, what I was just going to say is this is what I can't grasp is that they were doing that in 2019. These swap lines and then COVID came in to kick the can down the road. I don't get that. I don't understand that. And that's what, like, is that what we're working towards now?
There's a guy named VG, who's a Marxist economist who came up, who I thought made a very rational argument that the system was going emergent and unstable in October of 2019. That was absolutely true. I spent 2 hours with Grant Williams on the phone one Saturday night talking about it. We got the other call and we said, we don't have any idea what's going on here. But the repo market was going totally emergent. And so BlackRock said, the next crisis, you're going to have to go direct, which means you're going to have to give money straight to people, not to the banks. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden COVID shows up and they just flood the system with money. This Vigi guy said, he thinks that they basically put the entire global economy into an induced coma to bail it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the swap lines particularly, Michael, I don't have all the details, but I can tell you that there were a bunch of swap lines behind the scenes after 2008, and we didn't find out about them for a very long time. If you think about the swap lines with SVB, where they basically, you could pledge your assets at par. and essentially get liquidity off that, when in reality these assets were worth like 50 cents or something like that.
Right, Maiden Lane.
Yeah. Oh, please, God, please, Dave. That's PTSD, dude. Saw that on my financial statements for a long time. Yeah, Maiden Lane. So I think there's just a lot we don't know that they are. They're propping it up, and it's very fascinating because Ed has, the theory that he believes that the last financial crisis was also, controlled demolition. And I've told you how in late August, September, I was like, something's happening. You saw all the narratives turning at the same time. And then interestingly, you go back to the 70s, and was that a fake crisis, to also accomplish something, with the economy? And in fact, think about what it did accomplish. The women went into the workforce. I mean, this is the story of my childhood is, my parents bought a house with an arm. Rates started climbing. We lost it to foreclosure, and my mother had to go to work.
Jeffrey Tucker and Mike Green did a podcast together, and they talk about a lot of this stuff, and it's really good. So they talk about this idea that if you look at the economy from the 70s forward on an hours worked basis, it's been eroding badly.
Absolutely.
And that we basically, as I like to say, the boomers entered the workforce. So there's a demographic push, and they brought their wives with them.
They brought their wives. Yeah.
And that created a vast cost on the family because they had daycare costs and things like that. And
well,
so
they just let us. I mean, I ran the roads when I was 6 years old. We didn't have daycare, Dave. We just weren't taken care of.
So. That's right. Well, there was that. Turns out my mother was a profound alcoholic, and there's been a lot of consultations of experts saying, well, what did it do to my brother and I? And the conclusion is actually we just purely survived. It actually was, sort of a 1 in 10 you thrive. And my dad was very strong, but it meant we were unsupervised.
Right.
But do you think?
And it was great.
Do you think though now? Do you think now where we're at in this with this whole conflict and everything is it? Are they trying to put the system in another coma to kick the can down the road? I don't believe that they're going to. I don't believe that
the Strait of Hormuz sort of stuff,
lockdown, energy lockdown. And I've seen nothing to this point to disprove the theory that Matt was talking about 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago now, that this is where this is heading for a lockdown.
I can't. I don't have any evidence to the contrary, Michael. I mean, what facility was just hit last week? We
have energy facilities getting topped left and right, which are not even in the war zone. You've got fires all over the world.
Right. I just saw a tweet that they said, Shell and Mobil have told Walmart that they're going to be out of, motor oil in 2 weeks. I sent it to a friend of mine that works at a repair shop. I was like, and it's like unless this is, a rerun of 22, and again, it's just to kind of create some sort of complacency, I don't see how we don't have these massive repercussions, including shortages and famine and things like that. No, nobody wants to talk about it, but I mean, this is the logical outcome. And then at the same time, you have all these crazy things like, when they got rid of all the chickens, and then
right, they killed all the chickens,
and then the beef, whatever's going on there with, there's too much to keep up with, but this looks like I don't have any evidence to the contrary, Michael. So at this point, that's what I think is coming.
You think there's eugenics involved, explicit?
I think so. I mean, I think so. I just don't think that ever went away, like it got masked, but I think this is part of it. And also you think about, I ask myself, I'm constantly questioning myself, and what I'm thinking, but I asked myself, because I started eating healthy a long time ago, and I was like, what really triggered me to do that, and how did I have access to that information? Why did I stop eating bread like 20 years ago? And it's hard to remember exactly why, but I think there probably is this idea, and I hope to God I'm wrong. I really hope so, Dave. But there is this idea that, like, if you're educated enough that to detach yourself from the food system, to detach yourself from the medical complex, which I have, um, then maybe you deserve to be okay. And I'm not. I hope that I'm wrong about this. But that there is some. I mean, and I got to tell you, in that Buckley and Tucker interview, the one thing that also bothered me is at the end of the day, they would have spit on me as like a poor Southerner. There was this very waspy, like when they were talking about the BNT, whatever. That's the first time I'd ever heard that. The beach, the tennis club down in Palm Beach. And how do you remember this part of the conversation? And then the way that they were talking about women and things like this, and it was very elitist. I mean, certain aspects of that conversation. Again,
I definitely a couple of preppies. I mean, they were unambiguously
the ruling.
But that's
elite.
the world that's the world they grew up in, right? Even if they were not ruling elite, if you grew up, in the country club circuit and stuff like that, it's we belonged to a country club because my dad was an avid golfer. I remember watching my dad profoundly trying to protect us from becoming country club thinkers. I mean, I remember conversations. I remember, and so I don't hold that against them, because I don't think they could have avoided that.
No, I just think they have a limited perspective. Like, that's all. Like, it just makes me think, okay, I have big, huge blind spots, right? Like, I'm constantly trying to find them. But they're going to have big, huge blind spots as well, because of the way that they grew up and in those circles. And so that was another key takeaway that I had from that. But, I think the thing that, and this is something you learned, something I learned in grad school, is like intellectual rigor, like really, really questioning, really,
hard work.
Researching.
Hard work.
It takes so long. It takes so long. And people like make fun of me all the time because, I link every single piece of evidence to what I'm saying. But I was like, that's important. It's really, really important, and it's really, and I do all my own analysis. I don't use AI, things because, something you say all the time that I fully believe in is that you cannot think without writing. You cannot think without writing. I think you're the one that said that.
That is me.
Yep. And I just think this is something we've lost. But, just that intellectual rigor and coming to understanding through writing is just, I don't know. I think it's critical. It's a critical skill, and it's just being eroded. Like,
and my brain subliminally detects AI writing.
Oh, mine too.
You sit there and you read it, you're going, this should be interesting, and it's boring.
It's not.
It's hyper structured.
Yeah.
Right? The graphics are pretty, but they suck, right? The reason you have a graphic, like the reason you would show something that talks about inflation, is so that the person gets this image. They go, wow, look at the inflation. But the graphics are cluttered.
They're cluttered.
They're being generated. The axes suck. And the person who's the producer of that graphic is not saying, what does a human mind need to see in this graphic?
Yeah, because they don't even know. I think a lot of
they don't know.
Like, and it's a lot of it. I did a tweet a week ago where I was just like, can we just not anymore? Like, because you now know every single person on FinTwit who's using AI. And it's a lot of people I used to respect. And you can see it in the sentence structure. It's, this is what they're not telling you. I mean, it's like every single tweet is the same, but different information, sort of, but it's just, I don't know. It's disturbing, but it's also disturbing that these people that I thought would, use intellectual rigor, just, they get addicted to the money. Like, they're like,
and they get addicted to the efficiency.
Yeah, the
They
efficiency.
get addicted to the speed with which they can put out
Absolutely.
content.
I was reading, and this is going to, I think, probably shock a lot of people that have followed me for a long time. But you know who I was reading recently? And I was like, well, and I had already unsubscribed because I caught her in a little lie. Pippa Malmgren is
I've
now
been watching Pippa carefully for many, many years.
so I caught her in a lie about the Diebel. What's that? Was that Diebel voting machines? And I actually like
Which
she was-
preceded the Dominion voting
okay,
machines.
right, yeah. So she was somebody I followed very early, like because I joined in 21.
Your
And
father was profoundly prominent.
Correct.
So.
Harold, big in that. Her mother is the one who taught Tolkien Middle English, right?
Do you know where Pippa grew up? Ithaca, New York.
Did she? I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That's how I connected with her, because she spotted the Ithaca connection. Pippa is a globalist.
I agree.
And that's a problem. That's a problem. That means you're WEF. That means you're.
So hold on, just 1 second on this, because it's important, Michael. Is that, I mean, honestly, but she came off anti that, right? Like initially, like and she was somebody who would engage with me on Twitter, and I was a huge supporter. Would listen to her with the wine, listen to her with Michael Green, all these people. But then I just caught her in that first lie, and then you started to read her and realize she was spouting a very specific narrative for a very specific reasons. So I unsubscribed, but every once in a while she would have a unique idea that I was like, this is worth trying to understand. Very big on the UFOs as well, right? But her most recent post, I was like, okay, I'm going to read this. And I got 2 seconds into it and I was like, it's all AI. And I was just like, who the F is she really? I mean, it was, I don't know. But anyway, Michael, I know you're trying to.
It could just be busy and lazy. Busy.
Well, could be, right? And duped. I mean, maybe she herself is not aware. Because I do think this happens. Like, you get told, oh, I'm CIA and I have the skinny, and then people fall for it. They think they're getting inside information.
You also feel very important yourself.
You do feel very important.
Right.
Yeah.
You're
so anyway,
club.
Yeah.
By the way, the alien shit, I'm not going to believe unless a flying saucer lands on my front yard.
If it lands on my front yard, that's when I'll believe it.
I just don't care about this.
Otherwise,
I don't care about this.
Chance.
I could care less about this.
I used to care so much. I used to love space. I used to love Contact was my favorite movie. Like, again, I was a useful idiot, but now I'm just like, yeah, land on my front yard, and then
what I know about the laws of physics and the enormity of the universe is they're not here. That's my conclusion. They are not.
Oh, they are. They're at your local Walmart. You want aliens? Go to your local Walmart, and you really want to get a show? Go to Saturday night at 10 o'clock, and you'll see the band from Star Wars probably playing in one of them.
Now go to the website, people of Walmart.
I've seen it.
It's fantastic.
I don't care about that story, and I don't care about the Earth, the solar flares, and the magnetic poles, and the what can I do about that? There's nothing I can do about that. Right. I don't care.
That turns out to be true, even if they're not lying. There's nothing you can do about that.
That's right,
if,
and that's
if the solar flare problem is real, we could get so nuked.
There's nothing you can do about it. So why do I want to spend any energy? And the last one's another story. I don't care. The billionaire bunkers. I was talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't have enough money to build a bunker.
Well, here's the thing. If it gets to that point, you think the engineers that built that thing are going to listen to the billionaires?
No, they'll shoot them.
Right. So what's the point of talking about these billionaire bunkers?
Grant Williams once told me he was at a table with about 8 hedge fund managers. He said every single one of them had a bunker.
Of course. I mean, what a way. I think they convinced a lot of people. I mean, but that's, again, construction.
Well, also, if you're a billionaire, why not? Why not? Right? That's just a hedge. That's just a hedge.
Right.
What I heard, what he said was they have a plan, a bug out plan. And I said, what's a bug out plan? He said, a bug out plan is where you get on the phone, you make one phone call, triggers a series of events, which you drive to the airport, you get on your private jet, and you fly away. That's their bug out plan. They all have them. And you should have one, in my opinion, if you got that kind of money. I think that's like having some bags of rice in your basement for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read last week somebody was saying, "Oh, look at all these private planes that are flying around." As you know, it's kind of saying that maybe the bug out plans had been
Triggered?
activated. Yeah, so it's fascinating. You think about the DOMs as well. You know that Catherine Austin Fitts talks about the DOMs, the deep underground bases. You know, there are a lot of cities that we had, like we could go across the country underneath. And this is something she thinks that's where all the missing money might be.
By the way, history shows that we grotesquely underestimated the importance of underground living in antiquity, for example. So we thought they were safely in castles on top of steep mountains. There was a huge amount of underground safe havens in the ancient world.
I think there's something to that. And, when Helene hit here, I remember going up to Spruce Pine, which is where the silicon mining
got cut off, the one that got cut off.
Yeah. Well, but I could get up there, right? And what was so fascinating is that the mine was closed, theoretically. But all I saw, and I went up to Spruce Pine pretty much every day for about, I don't even know, 3 or 4 months. And all you saw were just trucks hauling stuff out of that mine, just hauling. And at the time we were being told there's no damage, there's no problem. You couldn't get in there. I mean, I passed this thing every time and it was actively trucks going in and out, in and out. So either there was a lot of damage that had to be prepared. It's also the only place I ever saw the National Guard, was in Burnsville, right around there. And so either it was that, either it was they were needed to do some expansion. I don't know, but that is definitely, it's just one of these things. And around here, there's all kinds of underground caverns, caves, but I do think that is an interesting, because I think you're probably right. I do think there's, this is actually from antiquity, the idea of living underground.
And what's that company Elon owns? The Boring Company.
Really? I don't know.
It's a boring company. No, it's a company that bore. Yeah, he loves the double entendre of it.
Yeah.
Right? I think one of the problems we face as an empire, and this I really wanted at least to say it's been bothering me, the Catherine Austin Fitts story, we are rotting the empire due to the vast amount of theft and grift. You can get rid of. You show me any NGO, and I will show you crimes. I will show you grift. I will show you billions of dollars being siphoned away, and it's happening on such a grand scale. And it's got to be coming out of what used to be the productive economy.
Right. Right. Like Lacey Hunt always says, cars and houses, right? But if you extrapolate that to like underground boring vehicles.
I said to Lacey one day, I said, you sound more agitated than normal. Because Lacey used to say, we're going to have this. And it was very matter of fact. I'm going, that seems scary to me, right? And I said to him, you sound more agitated than normal. He was on another sort of level of, and he said, you'd be correct. My wife is insisting now we take a vacation.
Yeah. Yep. I can imagine. But yeah, it is a crazy time. And, I think that really you have to have a mind that doesn't clamp down, like it has to be able to hold two completely opposing thoughts at the same time, possibilities. And that's just not a lot of people, and so I have no idea what's happening. I really don't. I'm just watching narrative convergence. That's it. Because I think it is giving me a kind of a direction more than anything else. Like what is the direction of where we're headed? So I don't know.
I'm gonna title this episode "Narrative Convergence." Narrative convergence with Dave Collum and Melody Wright.
The narrative problem in the digital age is the whole story now. Mike Benz, who's Mike Benz, right? Holy fucking moly, who's Mike Benz? But he talks about how in 2013 the elite realized they were losing control of the narratives, and that's when censorship and stuff started showing up on social media, and they realized that the internet they had to wrestle it down. I actually believe that the day the internet went live may have been a guaranteed trip to authoritarianism. I don't think it might avoidable.
When you have technology evolving, of course they're going to capitalize it and put stricter controls on people and tighten the noose. I mean, I don't know why people think, like, people really think like the order is going to be restored to the free world. It's like, it's not going to happen.
Former Stasi agents said, if you think the government's going to get data on you, not use it against you, you're out of your mind.
But it's not even like, even if that somehow the power is going to come back to the people.
It's just about power, like you say.
And they're just going to give it back to the people, like this is a Mad Max movie, and they're going to turn the water on at the end.
Or someone said, do you really think AOC is telling the billionaires what to do?
I don't think any of them are. That's where, I mean, we can end on this if you want. The midterms, like, I don't even, I mean, I guess I'll talk about it, but does it matter?
About the midterms. You've got me to the I don't give a shit at all about the elections at this point.
Like, the Democrats are really going to come in and do anything to stop this?
Okay,
maybe they impeach him, but it's all theater. Why would they, not that they matters anymore either, but why would they stop any of this? This administration is doing what they want, quote unquote.
Well, I do not like the weaponization of the DOJ in any way, shape, or form. I didn't like the J6 response. I don't like when some cabinet member who may not be a bad person, who gets charged with crimes and convicted and stuff like that. And maybe they're bad people, but the weaponization of the DOJ is really troubling.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. That's my point with all this. Nothing has changed.
I asked Jonathan Turley if it's gotten worse, and he said yes.
Well, it's not gotten better. Things aren't getting better.
Not gotten better.
Nothing's gotten better.
Worse.
Right.
I asked Jonathan Turley, by the way, if Derek Chauvin got a fair trial. And he started stammering because he wrote a lot about George Floyd and stuff, and he stammered a little bit, and then he said, I have real problems with the trial. Now, let me tell you a tiny anecdote about the talk I went to where I got to talk to him. It was at Cornell Law School, and there were no law students in the audience. There was one who was a son of a friend of mine who dragged him to it. One law student in the audience to see Jonathan Turley speak. It's like, holy fuck, like if the Pope came and no Catholics went.
Why do you think that was?
I think that the students are just not paying attention anymore. Someone said maybe it's because they're just so YouTubed out of their minds and stuff. But Jonathan Turley is like one of the gods of Supreme Court theory and freedom of speech, and he's very real. I also asked him, I said, are you anywhere near the Supreme Court? And he laughed his ass off. He said, the appointments are getting younger and I'm getting older.
So Dave, you'll appreciate this. I'm on Zero Hedge, and the top story is after fantastic day with Xi, Trump touts 200 jet Boeing deal as China offers Hormuz help. And then you go down, second article down, our market's fucked. Collum and Pomboy to address everything.
Collum and who?
Pomboy to address everything.
Who's
Pomboy?
Oh,
Pomboy.
Pomboy.
It's on Zero
Pomboy.
Hedge.
You,
It's on Zero Hedge.
Oh, yeah. Oh, really? I
What
thought
about
I had
you?
a twin. I thought I had an identical twin separated at birth.
So apparently Boeing, because I forgot Boeing was on that. They're on that. The president or the chairman of
It says our
Boeing.
market's fucked. They did. Collum and Pomboy to address everything. What about Mike Leibowitz? I'm the moderator, for fuck's sake. Jesus Christ almighty. That seems unfair to Mike. Sorry, Mike, if you're listening, which you're undoubtedly not because you have better things to do.
Financial celebrity, because you're a financial celebrity right there. You're a
Financial leverage.
yeah, hashtag financial celebrity.
Oh my God, that is funny. Zero Hedge is getting much harder to deal with. Zero Hedge used to be phenomenal. They used to really be where shit came out that you weren't seeing anywhere else. And now it's a bunch of AI articles and stuff. And I hope they don't.
Citizen Free Press, they're just so pro-Trump everything.
Well, they're also historically bearish, and it's been such a losing narrative for so long now that Zero Hedge will improve when we finally start a new secular bear market. Zero Hedge will become a good source. That's my prediction. They've had to go to other bullshit to buy time, waiting for this AI bubble, real estate bubble, everything bubble, complacency bubble. Which, by the way, Rock gives me credit for that term. Complacency bubble, and when those bubbles all burst, they're going to all burst at once. It's going to be. You ever seen the mouse traps and the ping pong balls, and you throw in one ball and they all shoot all over the place? That's what's going to happen. Every bubble is going to go, and it's going to be the most emergent mess on the planet. And I think it could take decades to clean up.
Yeah. It's so Michael, not that we're at final words yet, but what I would say is, what I'll be doing this weekend is planting. I'll be planting a lot of vegetables.
So this is the hunter-gatherer model of humans. I figured this out one day when I'm walking through Bon-Tons with my wife to get in the mall, and she just stops dead cold and starts fondling a blouse. And I go, guys don't do that. And so your planting is your primordial roots of being a gatherer and digging for roots and berries, and I'm out hunting wildebeest.
I want to eat.
But when a guy goes shopping, women go shopping and they do this, and they're sitting there and looking over their glass. Some guy will do this and throw it in the cart right over his shoulder without even looking. I'll come home with orange juice. It's actually grapefruit juice. And my wife says, how'd you get grapefruit juice? I said, look at the fucking thing on the cover. It's orange colored. It's orange colored. She says, you don't read it? I go, no, it's orange. That's how guys shop. If I can go through the store without slowing down, it's a win.
I'm actually very similar to that.
I like to shop. Actually, I like.
I'm going to plant.
You have gender issues.
I like grocery shopping.
I do.
I enjoy grocery shopping.
I'm actually. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say I love to grocery shop. I could spend an hour in the store, but I also go to a store where I know like a lot of the people there, it's my social interaction.
Like Charlie Kirk. Oh, not anymore.
Yeah. Steven Seagal I used to see in there too, and Rob Schneider. I see all these same people.
Oh, you're hanging out with the cool kids.
Yeah.
Melody, how about Erica Kirk? Is there any authenticity there at all? Any?
I don't see any at all.
I don't see how you can look at her and not go, oh my God.
I can't look at her. Like I have like this, the very first time she talked after he died, like I wanted to watch it. I couldn't get through 2 seconds and I had to click it off. I was like, every alarm bell in me went off. I can't, don't even do that, Dave. Like that's so like, God. Yeah, I couldn't. I wanted to listen to it from a just like, okay, let me understand what's going on, but I couldn't finish it. Yeah, there's some people
I
have to watch.
I make Erica Kirk jokes on Twitter, like I'll say that the PPI is authentic as Erica Kirk, and people jump on me and say you're such a scumbag. She's a grieving widow, and I'm going, these got to be bots because no one could be that stupid. No one could be that stupid.
Yeah. My fun thing now is taunting the bots. Like I don't do it often because I don't have a lot of time, but I have these bots that have been following me since Helene. Like these are the everything's disinformation bots, and I something happened, and I said something about Helene probably 3 months ago, and the bot comes after me, and I was like, "Are you guys still around? Like what? Like." It's been almost a year.
Purpose?
And that's what I said. What's your purpose now? You're still here. And he responds back with it responds back with a meme of the three amigos. It's just like, but it was as if, and again, I could be hallucinating this, who knows, but it was as if I actually had an exchange where it understood, I understood. And
it's AI. Let's start with that.
Like it was, or it was a human that's sitting there with like 50 phones.
I think it's an AI. So my original thought on the bots was they were actually testing AI and the degree of engagement, which would be trivial to measure, would tell them what's working. Because the bots used to come in, first of all, with a goofy looking name with about 5 numbers in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they'd also come in with a slightly antagonistic comment to get your emotions up. And then they would calm the hell down. Mm-hmm. And they were basically testing their AI.
Definitely the other thing that they would do is they start a comment with LOL, right? There's nothing humans
I can't
hate.
stand LOL.
Every human does not want to be laughed at. And so this is a way to get your hackles up immediately by laughing at you first. And that's when I really started to realize that these were bots. I was a dummy at first, total dummy. But yeah, LOL. And that immediately puts you on, the defensive. But now if I will toy with them because it's actually, and then the funny thing too, is I was telling Michael this, like the housing bots, the housing never go down bots are also the supportive of Israel bots. And it's like, you'll go to their feed, because I'll do this now when I think it is a bot. I'll go and I'll say, okay, what have you, and it's like all Israel, and it's hilarious. It's like, what, like, so I feel like they always have like these multiplayer or multi identity roles, these bots, and it's fascinating to see which ones are like on which.
Well, you can also see bots, like I love polls, because sometimes I'll use a poll to say something without me having to say it. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'll ask a question that's rhetorical, but I know it's going to happen. But then I don't have to. I go, look, I just asked the question, dude.
Exactly.
Sometimes I really want to know what people are thinking. But if I remember when you'd ask a question about Ukraine, and within about 50 to 75 answers, it turns out I've intuited that you get the right answer within 50 to 75, and you go to 10,000 after that, it's not going to change. But if some of those Ukraine things, all of a sudden, there would just be this wave of votes that would come in support of Ukraine and completely whack out the poll. And so you got to look at the poll when it's at 75 before the bots discover the poll.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you look like you wanted to say something.
No, I want to throw one thing in, and then we should probably wrap up because we're at 2.5 hours.
No, I'm not going for 3. I'm not doing that.
Ed mentioned.
You're such a wuss.
Ed mentioned.
I know, I really am.
Well, Michael, Dave, and I, we hit 3:15. It's the longest show I ever did.
That's what I'm referencing. Yes.
But
like I said, I watch your shows.
Ed had referenced the housing cycle. Housing's on an 18-year.
18 lens.
Is that true?
I had not heard that. Tell us.
He said that. He said that with you and I, Dave.
I know. No, but I'd never heard it.
But
I never heard that.
Before you answer that, Melody, isn't 1990 the last housing crisis before 2008?
No. I don't know.
Oh, no, that would be 18 years. I'm sorry. So it wouldn't.
No. Yeah, it was the early 90s. I think.
Was a recession.
Yeah. Yeah, there was. And that's actually, you go back and you look at like the Freddie Mac home price index goes back to 1975. And when I recently looked at the last time we saw a decrease seasonally between February and March, there were only 9 other times, 2 of which were in the 90s, 1991 and 1995. And then last year we had the lowest existing sales since 1995, which was also kind of a housing bear market. So I need to go back and do a lot more historical work on the 90s myself. But so I have been interviewed 2 times by this very fascinating woman in Australia who is a big proponent of the land cycle, and that it's 18 years and you can go back time immemorial and kind of find it. So I am researching it more, and we're coming in right on schedule. So, I mean, in the same way that Fibonacci and these types of patterns, like maybe there is something to this. I don't know. But yeah.
But 1990, though, it was a recession. There wasn't was there a housing?
In certain areas of the country, there was.
I meant to say 1980, by the way, not 1990. Because in 1980, there was a housing crisis, right?
Amplified now. I think the crises are really amplifying.
80 would be 1998.
No, I'm sorry, 1980. I mean, 1980 was a housing. Wasn't there a housing crisis in 1980 and not 1990?
There was in the 80s. I mean, that's when my family lost our home to foreclosure. It was in the early 80s. Yeah.
But was there? But in 1990, I mean, I know what my family went through during that recession. Was there a housing? Did the housing plummet during that time too?
They're in certain locations across the country. And so it was more regional, actually. But I need to do way more work on this. This is just something she and I talk, and we talk from two different like universes, but we are again converging. And it is very fascinating stuff. And actually, she emailed me yesterday with a paper that I have to read, but I'll forward it to you guys so you have it too. But yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, it's all fascinating.
Why don't you post a tweet and tag us there?
Okay.
That's a good way to do
really,
it.
Yeah. Once I read it, I will do that for sure. Yeah. Maybe I'll read it this afternoon. I'll try.
We're gonna be on here. We're gonna. Dave doesn't have his next appointment until next Wednesday, so we'll just keep going.
I've got a Michael Green paper that he sent me. Michael is so smart, and I'm sitting there. I'm hanging by my nails trying to read this paper. It is really.
You're not going to have time to read it because we're going to keep talking all the way until next Wednesday.
I know. Michael's writing a book, and so I offered to be a reader for his book. I hope his book is for the general audience because I am not above the general audience. So.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, now we're over 2.5 hours.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Where could we? I don't want to cut you off, Mel. You're going to say something?
No.
Oh.
No.
Dave, I know they can find you under your desk at X. Melody?
M3 Melody Substack and M3_Melody on X Twitter.
People that are listening, support Melody, support the work that she's doing. Go on her Substack, become a paid subscriber. People that are watching here, I put all my stuff up early, ad-free early on my Substack, both for video and audio. So if you like the show and want to support, I encourage you to do that. For those that are watching on YouTube, Rumble, and listen, comment, like it, share it. I do read all the comments. Most of the comments, as painful as some of them are. So both of you, thank you for doing this, and I look forward to the next one.
By the way, I had books at Amazon, and as of yesterday, Amazon kicked me off.
What?
They were sending me emails asking me to identify myself, and they looked like fishes. And then they said, you have not identified yourself. You've now been kicked off the KDP publishing, blah, 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 at Amazon. And I thought, these are fishes. And I went to Amazon, and I had been kicked off. I'm going, your emails look like scams. So we'll see if they put me back on. If not, then I never publish anything in Amazon ever again.
Wow. Yeah.
It was pretty weird. They kicked 17 of them off.
That's wild.
Yeah, it seems like a bad business model to me because I didn't confirm my identity. It was a very strange, and the address. So in any event, go to Amazon. You'll find I have no books.
I look forward to our next chat, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mic drop.